Phoenix Knights. Chapter 748, 4 Earth Dragons. Chapter 748, 4 Earth Dragons. Proofreader Papatonks. Elders, thank you. Luo Yunhai's eyes shone and laughed. He cupped his hands, but the sages shouted, Elderly, don't just stand there, get them out of there! Whoosh! A black figure flashed, and before the trio could react, a thick hand grabbed their shoulders and got them out. It was no other than Li Jingtian, elderly. Li Jingtian looked stunned, but seeing his heavy look, he did not finish. He followed Li Jingtian's gaze to see the sages shake, then cough blood while their domain soul instantly collapsed. Roar! The world shook as 4 dragons roamed above the mystical heaven sect. They broke out of the domain and circled around before vanishing as they returned to the 4 elders, while the spinning circle, the yellow dragon, was still there and just as powerful. The 4 elders sitting in the air did not show any sign of disturbance. The sages looked at the 4 and revealed fear on their faces. Ha ha ha, I never knew they had people that can use such a domain soul. It's our first time seeing such a soul, such a rarity. One elder chuckled. A shame you're too weak. You've been taxed before attacking us and were injured. Or you might have made us get serious. Another elder nodded. This soul domain sure is fantastic. Using yin and yang to turn the world around. An average cultivator would have had no way to cope with it. However, this domain's weakness is glaring. It's great for wearing the enemy out, but also leaving him with enough time to deal with it. The other 3 nodded, discussing things as if the sages weren't even in their radar. If not for this, I would have actually wanted to see what they looked like. Humph, fogies sure know how to talk. So you're saying we're not worth a glance from you, is that it? However, following the shout of anger at the 4, a gaudy white light shot for them. Why don't you old freaks look at this then? Whoosh! Like an arrow from above, a searing heat approached the 4 old guys. Boom! Once the glaring light was gone, the 4's position became a white ball of light, making the air shimmer from the heat. Qiu Yehai and Shui Qingjian panted as they looked over, as grave as before. They knew the 4 were by no means dead even from the life and death art they just used. But when the light scattered, the couple still gasped in shock. How can this be? The elders were still spinning around, relaxed as ever. Their eyes were closed still, their mouths perked in a mocking smile. The yellow dragon above was still circling, unfazed. The couple trembled all over, their hearts sinking. They had been hurt before they attacked just now, but that life and death art was a strike backed by all their power. Even so, it couldn't even scratch them, nor make them budge. To the 4 elders, the couple was not even worth a look. Everyone felt terror at this moment. They were just no match for them. Xuan looked over and frowned. 4 Earth Dragon souls? That's precisely it. Sect leader Xian laughed. Didn't I tell you? While you don't know of Western Land Sect's powers, you at least should know of the demon scheming Sect. High Venerable. Xuan looked long at him, and nodded. I heard of him but never saw him. Ha ha ha, then allow me to tell you. In the Western Lands we are known as Tianyu's 3 guardian sects, with each sect their own guardians. Sect leader Xian spoke with pride. 1 Sword 5 Dragons is the name our guardians go by. What? You mean to say? Han Qianying cried out in disbelief. I've always thought it to be just a rumor. But it's real? Then the 4 venerables are them? Danner asked from the side. Senior sister, what are you talking about? Why don't I know this? You haven't been in the sect for long, so of course you don't know. High Venerable shook her head. Some elders of the sects know that our sect has 4 great venerables defending our home, heavenly cycle elders. Demon scheming sect's elusive sacred dragon is equally renowned. But with how much time has passed and they didn't show themselves, everyone stopped believing this rumor. High Venerable turned to the 4 sitting elders with fear and despair. If they come out, not even the demon scheming sect's entire force can beat them. Even with the High Venerable, we still won't win. Ha ha ha, exactly. They are truly mystical heaven sect's elders, knowing when to gauge the situation. Sect leader Xian laughed. 1 Sword 5 Dragons, Tianyu's 3 guardian sects, is made of heavenly sword, guarding heaven trailing sect. Of the 5 dragons, 4 of them are Wood Dragon, Fire Dragon, Ice Dragon, Metal Dragon, the 4 elders in our sect. This leaves the demon-scheming sect's only High Venerable, Hidden Dragon. Although he is said to be the strongest of the 5 dragons, how can one defeat a team of 4? Thinking back when he with the Impermanence 5 attacked the Heavenly Cycle Elders, they were defeated. So even if he shows up, we have nothing to fear. Xuan squinted as he spoke heavily. So these 4 great experts that were always in hiding finally came out. Humph, our 4 venerables have been in seclusion for years and years, readying to enter soul harmony stage. But with your assault, they had no choice but to come. Sect leader Qilin snarked. Xuan, you and your men will die here, ha ha ha. Shaoyu was bouncing from joy. Xuan, a vile fiend like you dared to attack a righteous sect, and now you see the power we have, ha ha ha. Seeing the father and son so full of themselves, Xuan stayed silent. My head is still sitting on my shoulder. Aren't you two jumping the gun a little? He then turned an eyebrow at the 4 old guys. They sure are strong. Guess these 2 aren't that full of it either. Ack. Cries resounded after Li Jingtian saved the trio. Luo clan's ethereal stage experts arrived there as well. 36 people surrounded the 4, however. The 4 made a sign and the dragon roared. As they spun around in a circle, dragons came out of them and then made a round trip back. Each time it did, a dragon's soul would always take at least a victim. The powerful Earth Dragon's soul along with the might of this combination made these ethereal stage experts feel like entering hell. They couldn't even get near the circle, ending up dead before they could do anything. Everyone was shocked, even demon-scheming sex oldies. Knowing the 4 were the High Venerables and also known as the 4 dragons, they were struck with fear. Since High Venerable can't beat them, we're only going there to die. Mystical Heaven Sect's group came out from their disadvantage with high morale. Their support was here. I never knew these old devils weren't just rumors. For Earth Dragon souls and even forming a Heaven Cycle array, how to cope with it? Han Qianying sighed. She looked at Qilin protecting her. Qilin, it seems we'll only be together for a brief moment. Olo! Superscript 1AO. Qilin held her hand. With you by my side, a moment is enough. Han Qianying gave a bright smile and nodded. The onlookers were gratified but also sad. The two's feelings never changed after all these years, yet when they reunited, they were about to be separated once more. Demon-scheming sect's defeat meant their death. Sect leader Xian's side snickered. Xuan's eyes were the only ones bright. He took a deep breath. I really didn't want to do this, but what choice is there? Chapter 749, Despair and Regret. Chapter 749, Despair and Regret. Proofreader Papatonks. Boom. Following the string of explosions, wails of agony filled the area. The Heavenly Cycle Elders spun in the air like a disk, calm and unfazed, yet with every spin, they sent out hundreds of dragon souls like a storm upon the enemy. Luo clan's ethereal stage experts had no way of approaching the 4 under this onslaught. In fact, they were the one getting slaughtered. In mere moments, the remaining dozen still left alive from the last attack were now gone as well. Everyone could not believe what they saw. Even Li Jingtian, a martial fanatic, shook at such power. Roar! A draconic roar sounded as the yellow dragon shot for Li Jingtian. Startled, Li Jingtian flicked his hand in a rush, sending a black dragon to meet the attacked necro dragon chain claw. Black claws came at the yellow dragon, sharp enough to whistle through the air as they approached. However, the yellow dragon still came at him relentlessly. Bam! The deafening sound made the others cover their ears. Whether mistakenly or not, they even heard sounds of tearing. The next moment, they saw Li Jingtian spit blood, his body powerless as he fell to the ground. The black dragon's soul had also vanished. Elder Li! Luo Yuhai shouted, his eyes shaking. Just then, a black figure flashed before Li Jingtian, holding him before he collapsed. Luo Yuhai sensed the faint breath in Li Jingtian and roared, Old Bat, take young master and the others away from here. Elder Li's soul must be almost shattered. The 4 old guys are impossible to deal with as we are. Hurry up and get out of here. Sure, old coot. Whoosh. In a flash of white, Shui Qingjian came to Qiu Yanhai. With her white silk, she wrapped it around them and left. Sages, protect us! The sage's mouth twitched, but sighed. How were they supposed to do that against such an opponent? But when it came to clan head's safety, it was their duty. Xinggang Reversal Domain! Soul Variant Xinggang World Lock! The two shouted and made their signs. The rattling of a chain was heard, followed by the coming of one white and one black chains, twisting around and releasing a strange aura in a blink. The chains circled around the heavenly cycle elders and locked them in place. The circle was going to move again, but with the chains, it wouldn't budge. How amusing! It's not just as simple as a mere domain soul. One elder spoke in amazement, another elder nodded. Xinggang chain, connecting heaven and earth. It looks like they shrunk their domain, down to the size of a chain, but it is in fact the opposite, they enlarged it. Because the chain's yin-yang energy, connecting the world, it makes us connect with it, and taking out power with it, forcing us in place. I never thought these two's domain soul would have such a variation. Truly amazing. Humph, that's right. In the Radiant stage we have comprehended this move and even used it to seal off one true monster. The sages smiled, recalling the time they had Gu Santong trapped with pride. Now that we're in the ethereal stage, with domain soul as support, this move is perfected. We refuse to believe you four old coots are worse than that monster and can remove the chains. Heaven's sage shouted at the distant couple. Take elderly and clan head to a safe place. Leave this to us. We promise to not let these old guys leave this place before the battle is over. As expected of the strongest sages in Tianyu. You truly are reliable, ha ha ha. Qiu Yihai gave a thumbs up and a laugh. Luo Yihai smiled as well. Seeing the four old guys trapped, however, they had no idea how much the sages were suffering. The reason their domain soul was strong was because of its size, capable of dispersing the enemy's power, but now, the domain was the size of a chain. The heavenly cycle elders' mighty power made them feel a pressure like never before while the chains connected the world around them, shifting the pressure. But even that fraction of power left behind was enough to strain every fiber of their being. But they held on, even if their tendons broke. They knew that if they could not hold the four freaks back, then the clan head was dead. That was why they would use their own lives to keep the four here. However, none around understood this. Some demon-scheming sect elders saw the heavenly cycle elders stuck and cried. These secular cultivators are amazing. They actually trapped the four dragons. This isn't possible for any ethereal stage cultivator in the lower three sects. Yeah, just how are they so strong? No wonder their steward was AIDS. They're as weird as him. But why didn't they use this move from the start? Why wait for so many to die? Yeah. Was it to show off at the last moment? After the admiration faded, suspicion rose. The sages' faces twitched as they made signs. Who the hell would use a last-ditch effort if not at the end? After this, it'd be a miracle if they were still alive. If not for the clan head being in peril, they would have never used it. But how could these fools know? Not even Luo Yihai and Qiu Yihai knew this truth. Only Xuan saw how hard it was, touching his ring. Guess I do have to use it after all. Ha ha ha, Xuan, you can't possibly think those two can stop mystical heaven sects for guardian dragons, do you? You must be dumber than I thought. Xuan did not get to act as sect leader. Xian's bragging caught his attention, pointing at the four elders. Just watch and witness true despair. The four elders were still sitting with their eyes closed when one started. Ha ha ha, ignorant juniors, don't get too cocky. Your domain soul might have merit, but it's nothing to us four. The four made different signs and the dragon soaring above increased its speed, sending wave after wave of yellow energy, rattling the yin-yang chains. The sages' brow furrowed as they made their own signs. No use! We have joined heaven and Ugh! Before they finished, their bodies shook and spat blood before slumping to the ground. Boom! With an explosion, the yellow energy rippled like a wave and crushed the yin-yang chains. Ha ha ha, our souls are earth dragon souls born of the earth. While you can make our power touch the world, we can touch upon the earth to resonate with. We drew its power and used the ones we had to attack the chains from both sides. The four old guys still sat there in midair. One of them smiled. It's not your souls that are weak, It's because you met us that happened to have the way to deal with you. The sages were on the ground, powerless, with barely a breath left in them. Their eyes were filled with regret. The elders never once looked at them. The two souls are in a worse state and can't move. We should first deal with those pesky bugs and finish them for good. The other three elders nodded. The force spun once more and moved into the crowd of people, the ethereal stage experts of the two sects that were now fighting. The minute they joined the fray, it spelled doom for the demon scheming sect's experts. Cries and wails rang everywhere. Mystical Heaven Sect's elders were overjoyed. With their sect guardians fighting, the tables had turned. Demon Scheming Sect's early advantage was now crushed. The faces of all the people from Demon Scheming Sect was now painted in the bleak colors of despair and regret. Chapter 750 Ace. Chapter 750 Ace. Proofreader Papatonks. Ack. Wails and mournful cries kept echoing about Roar. Among them, there were also cheers. One side was happy, the other was in the pits of despair, as the four old freaks struck the Demon Scheming Sect side hard. Mystical Heaven Sect's people were roaring their joy in a flash. Demon Scheming Sect's tens of experts fell dead, their morale crushed. Some were so taken by fear that they lost all will to fight, resorting to fleeing. Defeat looked certain. Xuan, what do we do? We'll lose if this keeps up. We have to get away. Xinggang came to Xuan to report this disaster. My eastern side is on the brink of collapse. Venerable Bai and others came flying as well. The western side is almost finished. The heavenly cycle elders rain death wherever they go. We can't go on. Steward Xuan, the path forward is almost shut. We should unite our forces and break through before it's too late. Venerable Qi urged. Xuan spoke. It's pointless even if we do get away from them. Our tactic to get in and attack from the inside now has us trapped in their defensive array. We're left with only one option, to either win or die. You mean there's no point even if we try? We can't break Mystical Heaven Sect's array? Are we going to die here? Venerable Qi wailed. Xinggang took a deep breath to calm down, then stared hard at Xuan. Then what should we do? Are we really going to fight to the death? Of course not. Take down the leader and the rest will follow. Xuan's eyes shone as he stared at sect leader Xian. They all started getting his meaning. Of course, we just have to grab that old weasel and the Mystical Heaven Sect will give in. Seeing the bloodthirst in their eyes, sect leader Xian got their plan and mocked as he retreated. Ha ha ha, you want me? You would never reach me. Hee, we'll only know when we try. Xinggang snickered. Brothers, attack! Get that old coot! Our lives depend on it. Roar! They all shouted, knowing they had a way out, and focused all their power, flying straight for sect leader Xian. Their eyes were that of a thug eyeing a hot girl. Sect leader Xian shivered and turned grave. At a critical time like this, he became the sole focus of everyone. Everyone wanted him as a shield. Mystical Heaven Sect's experts saw their sect leader was in danger and came to help. So, the bitter battle had taken another huge turn. It was no longer a spread battlefield, but one with sect leader Xian at its center, like he was the hottest commodity out here, and everyone had to have a piece. Hi, Oil Xian, sit tight and be a good meat shield to let us out. Demon Scheming Sect's 30-plus ethereal stage experts stared at him from 100 meters and launched soul attacks. Sect leader Xian gulped, feeling the sweat trickling down his brow. Not even he could take on so many attacks. However, just when he was in danger, a draconic roar echoed in a flash of light. A sea of dragon souls rushed at them. In a single moment, howls echoed out and the 30-plus experts were now pushed back. As for sect leader Xian, in front of him was the circle of elders with the terrible yellow dragon flying above. The Demon Scheming Sect's side cried out. Heavenly Cycle Elders! How did they get here so fast? They gathered close to Xuan, watching the four freaks. Mystical Heaven Sect's side also focused around sect leader Xian, filled with smiles of disdain. In a blink, there was no more fighting as the parties stood in opposition. While the Mystical Heaven Sect was filled with courage, the Demon Scheming Sect was now fearful, all because of just 4 very monstrous elders. Ha, Xuan, fighting you is beneath me. With Mystical Heaven Sect's 4 guardians you are finished. You want me? Humph, you'll have to go through our venerables first. Sect leader Xuan shouted in pride. Shaoyu had to show off as well, being his son and all. Xuan, vile demon, you fooled my junior sister and are lower than a dog. I will soon have you ripped apart in tiny pieces and throw them to the wolves. Ha ha ha. Demon scheming sect was outraged but powerless. Their last hope was in Xuan, turning to him for a resolution. What now, Steward Xua? You pushed me this far, so don't you regret it later. I'll have to use my final ace. Xuan's eyes flashed as he played with his ring. Fiend Yang turned serious. Xuan, are you going to fight yourself? You want to fight? Han Qilin frowned. They have those 4 venerables. You can't beat them. Qilin waved her off with a smile. Qilin, you don't understand Steward Xua. He has an ultimate move. You haven't seen Steward Xua's black flame. Any kind of freak met their maker. Ahem. Xuan cleared his voice before Qilin finished. To be completely honest, he was also stumped on how to deal with the 4 elders. That black thunder flame was indeed of incredible destructive force, but after Double Dragon Gathering, he never used it because the thunder flame needed the decimating golden flame and the azure flame to be combined with purple lightning. He had no way of getting his hands on the golden flames. The ones he got on Double Dragon Gathering were stolen from Qilin, not his own, so that method was out and had no way of beating the freakish old coots. As for the other method, it was something he stole from Double Dragon Manor, the sacred weapon. But it could only be used as a very last resort. Exposing it would paint a huge target on his back, but Qilin's words made everyone turn to him. Everyone was now eager to see what the great Steward Xua would reveal. Even the 4 freaks believed it possible. Oh, so you're the boss of this little rabble? Show me then, what a babe can possibly do to the 4 of us. I hope you can at least open our eyes, ha ha ha. Xuan, come and challenge our venerables if you have the guts. What difference does it make since you'll be dead anyway even if you don't, ha ha ha. Sect leader Xuan snarked. Xuan smiled at them all, though sighing within him. I'll have to disappoint you all, I don't plan on fighting. The demon scheming sect was stumped and shook their heads. Even Steward Xua can't find a way. Xuan then continued. However, I have to take out this ace. Remember this, you forced me to do it, so don't go crying later. Xuan flicked his hand and in a glorious light, a 7-year-old kid showed up, invincible scamp Gu Santong with a long yawn. Gu Santong stretched his waist, looking bored at Xuan. Dad, what took you so long? I almost fell asleep. Ha ha ha, haven't I taken you out now? You're our ace. How can I just show you to them? I needed to wait for the right moment. Xuan grinned as he showed a bright smile like an innocent child. Gu Santong nodded, totally buying it. The crowd, however, was stumped. Even Fiend Yang began cursing him. What the hell? Why did you take out a kid when you were talking about an ace? He is my ace. With an obvious nod, Xuan spoke with pride. As a father, my son is my biggest ace. Mystical Heaven Sect, listen up and listen well. To get to me, you'll have to go through my son first. Xuan's loud voice made Gu Santong puff out his chest in pride. To hold back the flood for his old man was this kid's greatest honor. However, no one else here saw it that way. Both sides were stumped, looking from father to son as they cursed, "You animal!" Chapter 751, Little Monster vs. Old Freaks. Chapter 751, Little Monster vs. Old Freaks. Proofreader Papatonks. Humph, I've heard so much about the best and most talented disciple in Western lands, how he was so heroic at the Double Dragon Gathering. In the end, you're hiding behind a child. You really opened my eyes in this. Sect leader Xuan mocked, while the Mystical Heaven Sect was jeering at Xuan's expense when disaster struck. A babe was taken out. Demon Scheming Sect were facing a fierce enemy now, but they were all veteran cultivators. They had status and respect, even as demonic cultivators. Even they wouldn't stoop so low as to use a child to take their burdens. It was beyond disgraceful. They all cast blaming looks at Xuan, This war was a big misunderstanding to begin with. We can even forget the fact you brought us to our death, but can you at least let us die with honor? What the hell did we do to deserve this? Steward Xuan, if you're at the end of the rope, fighting to the death is much better than leaving it in the hands of a child. Are you maybe going easy on your enemy? Venerable Qi sighed. Xinggang blamed. Xuan, I know your whole clan is a den of freaks, obvious from how this child is in the ethereal stage at such a young age, but he's way too young and never knew war. It'd be better to let him escape and take revenge for us. Why must you push him forward, crushing our hopes and making a fool of yourself? Hey, did you just say something, chubby? Yours truly can dish it out. Are you calling me weak? Gu Santong wrinkled his nose in anger. Xinggang sighed and rubbed Gu Santong's head. See that, look how much he resembles you. But no matter how strong, you can't grow overconfident. He's just in the ethereal stage, how can he fight those old freaks at peak ethereal stage? Have you no heart to send your child? Gu Santong was about to blow a gasket. Xuan shook his head but said nothing. Fatty Yang, you asked for what's coming. Young Sanzi won't go easy on you. Pa! Gu Santong grabbed Xinggang's hand and startling him. What is it, little guy? I hate it when people touch my head. Gu Santong gnashed his teeth, but just then, a fair hand touched his as a delicate voice spoke. Are you young Sanzi? I heard of you. Startled, young Sanzi looked at the pretty lady with a stunned gaze, his hand easing his grip on Xingang. Then, young Sanzi, our safety is in your hands. Chu Qingqing leaned and touched Gu Santong's cheek. Her bright smile blew the child's mind. Nodding out of reflex, Xuan sighed. No one can resist Qingqing's beauty, not even this brat. So he coughed and pointed at Chu Qingqing. Young Sanzi, this is my lady. She'll be your mother from now on. Mom? Gu Santong shook and looked at Chu Qingqing. Great, I like her. Chu Qingqing blushed and rolled her eyes at Xuan. Then she turned to the enemy, at the Heavenly Cycle Elders, and asked concerned. Young Sanzi, can you beat them? Won't it be hard? Humph, what's so great about some small fries? Gu Santong mocked, then strutted over. Dad, Mom, in half an hour I'll make mincemeat out of them. Chu Qingqing looked at him, then at Xuan with red cheeks. Ha ha ha, this kid is just like his dad. He called you Mom without hesitation. Xuan chuckled. Chu Qingqing glared at him, but felt warm and fuzzy inside. The others was watching the queer scene in stunned silence. What kind of parents sent their child to die? Even if unrelated. Han Qianing frowned and asked, Qingqing, how can you agree with Xuan, letting a child? Senior sister, he's no child. Chu Qingqing said. In Tianyu, he has never lost a fight. He's called Invincible Scamp for a reason. Yeah, even I couldn't beat this kid. Xuan sighed, then smiled. Qingqing, you sure know young Sanzi quite well. Chu Qingqing smiled. Of course. I might have come to Mystical Heaven Sect earlier, but my sisters from Drifting Flowers Edifices have sent me jade slips with all you've been doing in Tianyu. So the fact you have such a godlike godson I knew as well. I just find it odd though. Just what did you use to cheat this great force to be your son? The same way I charmed the most gorgeous woman to be my wife. Xuan grinned. Chu Qingqing rolled her eyes and cursed. Since when were you such a smooth talker? As the two were in a rare moment of flirting with each other, Gu Santong was a child on a mission. This monstrous scamp wearing the face of a cute child was finally unleashed on the battlefield. Everyone stared at him, sighing and helpless. They knew Xuan was a bastard, but not without morals. To send a child on the cruel field of battle, and even calling him a glorified ace. How revolting seeing that sweet little face, and those chubby hands. They all found him adorable. That's no ace, but a small fry. Sect leader Xuan mocked. Is this demon scheming Sect's trump card? With both parents dead, this child will have to wander alone the cruel road of cultivation. Ha ha ha, a shame that this won't work on us. We may be righteous cultivators but no saints. Humph, yeah, this demon brat is so young and in the ethereal stage. It's best to cull him now before he grows. Shaoyu gnashed his teeth. The heavenly cycle elders agreed. One elder even shouted, "Kid, do you really want to interfere for demonic cultivators? We won't go easy on you just because you're young. Cut the crap, I came to stomp you." Gu Santong stuck out his head and charged demon scheming Sect was shocked and praised him. How brave! Like father like son, they're both stubborn. Mystical Heaven Sect clenched their fists. Clear this was a demon in the making that was treating everyone beneath him. They had to get rid of him now. The elder smirked and nodded. Fine then, since you've been taken in by the demonic path even at your young age, then the four of us will have to cleanse you and release you from your mortal coil. The four made signs, and with a draconic roar, a dragon soul shot for Gu Santong. Everyone was shocked, worried for the sweet child. Then they looked at Xuan. Aren't you going to rescue your own son? Xuan just stood there with a smile. Hypocrite, get in here and fight. Stop with your prattle. You're nothing more than a bunch of hypocrites using numbers. Seeing the dragon about to strike, Gu Santong mocked, flicking his hand at it. Bam! With a loud explosion, the dragon was sent flying with a wail before anyone could react. Back to its circle the four elders shook, not believing their eyes. A child was capable of so much power to bash their earth dragon's soul away. Gu Santong wasn't finished with his attack. He stomped, and was right in front of their spinning circle. He let his almighty fist smash down on them. Boom! With another explosion, the yellow dragon constantly floating around the circle had its body cave in and cry in pain. Its body was broken and turned into pretty lights before vanishing. As for the circle, with the vanishing of the dragon, the power of his strike traveled straight for the four, who lifted a hand to block. Bam! The four were sent hundreds of meters away. They were forced to open their eyes at last, having no luxury to show off any longer. Looking at Gu Santong, they had shock painted on their faces. What the hell are you? Oh, you weren't blind? I thought you were crippled, so I held back. Damn fakers, ruining my sympathy. Now I see there's no need to anymore. Gu Santong clenched his fist and mocked. The audience was still very much out of it after seeing a 7-year-old brat punch the four old freaks. No wonder Steward says he's his ace. He was serious. But what the hell, there's just one freakier than the next. Looking from Gu Santong to Xuan, they sighed, having no idea what to call them anymore. How are we supposed to make a living with so many monsters around? Chapter 752, Ender. Chapter 752, Ender. Proofreader Papatonks. A shock like no other overrode their minds and all common sense. Everyone was now watching with empty eyes as Gu Santong stood in the air. Zizi Xuan, what the hell is that kid of yours? Xinggang gulped. The others were looking at the Grand Steward with overwhelming emotions. He did not reply and ordered instead. Everyone scatter! Get some distance from them! Xuan was the first to move back, with others quick to react, flying 1,000 meters. While the mystical Heaven Sect's side were still too stunned to react, not even noticing their movements. They just stood there, watching Gu Santong with a dumb look. This distance should be safe. Xuan sighed. Do you know why I had young Sanzi come out now to fight? They just shook their empty minds. Still dazed, Xuan chuckled. Because this kid has a foul temper and mean strength. Once he gets worked up, nothing can stop him. Our main objective, you all know, is to teach Mystical Heaven Sect a lesson, crush their attitude, not destroy them. Or Double Dragon Manor will not sit still. The oldies nodded. No matter how many conflicts there were between sects, Double Dragon Manor would never allow for them to blow out into a bloody war and weaken the western lands. Only as a last resort could I let this troublesome kid out. Or one strike from him could even wipe this thousands of years old sect off the face of this world. Xuan sighed. A shame they just don't listen, insisting on making me take out my last move. They reap what they sow. It's not my fault at all. Dude, we're the invaders here. Xinggang scratched his nose and felt helpless. Steward is such a dirtbag. He has no morals. You came here to mess them up and you expect them to welcome you with wide smiles? Then again, those were demonic cultivators for you. Especially Steward was arrogant, self-righteous kind. They were everywhere. However, there was something he failed to see. Steward Xuan, is your son that strong? The mystical heaven sect is still a sect. Don't believe me? Watch. My kid was known as an ender in Tianyu, destroying everything in his path. Xuan shrugged, everyone frowned, then focused on the fight. Just in time to see Gu Santong walking for the mystical heaven sect with an obnoxious attitude, like none were up to his standards. Steward Xuan, your son is your spitting image of your heroism and brutality, ha ha ha. Venerable by chuckled. Xuan shrugged and smiled. The heavenly cycle elders watched Gu Santong's insufferable attitude and were fuming mad. They knew the kid was more than he seemed, but his blatant disdain was getting to these elders' nerves. Enough of your arrogance, kid. We have underestimated you before, but don't think you will get rid of us so easily. Really? Then let's continue. Gu Santong snickered and hooked a finger in mockery. You're all bark and no bite. Come and get me if you want. Heavenly cycle elders were red with rage. Mystical heaven sect side cried out, worried by their looks about the terrible kid. This was the first time seeing someone humiliate their four venerables, though he does have the strength. They looked on with bated breaths as the two sides were ready for a grand battle. The four elders made signs, followed by draconic roars. Four dragons took to the skies. Yellow light shone from the ground beneath and bathed the dragons, transforming them into a yellow dragon hundreds of meters long. The thick pressure was crushing on everyone's shoulders, and it was all focused on Gu Santong. However, the kid's face fell a bit, and that was it. The audience, even demon scheming sect side 1,000 meters out, were gasping from shock. This power was hundreds of times stronger than what the four unleashed before Han Qianing was bug. This is the four elements cycle array? Fiend Yan saw the formation and cried as well. His face was heavy. It was an array that was made by radiant stage experts and defeated four ethereal stage experts. Now that four peak ethereal stage experts formed it, its power must be unimaginable. The four elements cycle array borrows the power of the earth and four elements to unleash the world's energy. Its power is endless. I fear that not even an early soul harmony stage expert can block an array formed by the four high venerables. That child is in danger. Shui Rohua was worried. They all turned their eyes on Xuan, but he was as calm as ever. Qilin was a Qilin. His soul and body were one to begin with. Reaching the soul harmony stage would hardly make a difference to him, since Qilin could do it earlier, so can young Sanzi. But his will-be stronger sect leader Xian saw the four venerables unleash such might and wrote off the kid as dead already, ignoring him. Ha ha ha, get ready for a funeral. You must have seen the power of four elements cycle array, but I must tell you that it is far deadlier in the hands of the venerables. Even more so when the venerables aren't using the four elements cycle array, but the stronger one, heavenly cycle dragon array, formed by using four earth dragon souls. Your end is nigh. Shaoyu heard his dad brag and laughed as well, looking the part of the winning side. Mystical heaven sect snickered. Demon scheming sect was silent, gnashing their teeth. Only Xuan just watched Gu Santong as he said, "Young Sanzi, it's fine." Gu Santong waved his hand. His face was hard, but still mocked. Before me, even earth dragon souls are nothing more than worms. Xuan knew where young Sanzi's confidence came from. His body was that of a Qilin, his soul that of a sacred beast. Not even a heaven dragon soul could top that. Xuan just eased a breath and relaxed. Young Sanzi's confidence was seen as a joke by the heavenly cycle elders, mocking him. Ignorant young devil, do you even know what earth dragon soul is known for? It connects to the world. By combining with the earth, one's power grows tens of times. It's unlike the previous dragon soul you beat. And? They're still worms. Gu Santong mocked and taunted. If you don't strike, I'll do it first. The heavenly cycle elders was outraged. Damn brat, you have the nerve to mock us? It's best we get rid of you at once with all we have. The four made a sign in unison, then pointed at Gu Santong. The huge dragon roared and charged at the little figure. Everyone watched with their hearts in their throat. Only the few who believed in young Sanzi's strength were calm. Roar. Along with the draconic roar, the dragon's soul slammed down, making the ground cave in thousands of meters. Despite not feeling the dragon's brunt force, they could still feel the aftermath, the biting winds that cut at their skin. They were overwhelmed. The power was so incredible even bystanders would suffer from a stray wind. Just how would that kid stand it? When the eyes turned to Gu Santong, they were stumped once more. The kid wasn't harmed in the slightest. As if he was only standing in a mild rain, Gu Santong looked up at the incoming lizard and took a deep breath. His body flashed scarlet, his eyes shining as he got ready to lash out with the might of a true Qilin. His body as well was itching to strike and explode with power. Chapter 753, Qilin Roar. Chapter 753, Qilin Roar. Proofreader Papatonks. Roar. As the huge dragon's soul was right on top of him, Gu Santong perked his mouth up in one eerie smirk. As he roared, an image of a scarlet Qilin came out of his body. As it howled, there were scarlet shock waves spreading out. As for the huge dragon's soul, it faltered like it met obstacles. The scarlet ripple's shock waves slammed into it, making it feel great pain with every strike and pushing it back. That's not possible! Just by roaring he can push back the earth dragon's soul us four-formed. Their eyes shaking, heavenly cycle elders cried out in unison from this shocking revelation. They could not believe their eyes that this was happening. Their hands shaking nonstop, they felt an immense power coming at their array, to the point it wanted to tear it out. They could not believe what was happening. This unbridled power came from a mere child's howl. His soul was also sending the four eerie vibes. A fear they hadn't sensed in centuries. The Qilin flexed its claws, ready to tear the sky open as it howled. Anything and everything that stood in its path was feeling the brunt of its power. Plunged into hell, heavenly cycle elders' brows shook, feeling feeble. None wanted to admit it, even as they knew it already. The four had met a tough opponent this time around, one that was a freak beyond them. Roar. Gu Santong saw the huge dragon's soul just kept retreating and was on the brink of collapse. He grinned, having a nasty smile on his face as he shouted at the sky once more. Boom! In a split second, a red sound wave came at the huge dragon's soul like a tsunami. This time, the huge dragon's soul barely lasted a few seconds before crumbling down to nothing following the defeat of their combined earth dragon souls into the heavenly cycle dragon soul. The heavenly cycle elders spat blood in unison. Their soul had a deep wound, evident from their ashen face. They had no time to even catch their breath as the red sound wave came straight for them. Fricking hell, what monster is this brat? The four watched as the red wave came with dumb looks. They cursed in defiance, like dying old men, before being pulverized. All that was left of them was blood sprinkled down from four clouds. Not even their souls could withstand Gu Santong's Qilin roar, shaking their very core and ripping it apart. The dreaded red sound wave boomed in the distance and warped the space, sending shock waves everywhere. Everyone was too speechless to react. The four dragons of the Great Tianyu's three guardian sects, one sword, 5 dragons, had been killed by a 7-year-old just like that. Holy hell, just where the hell did this freak come from? Sect leader Xuan and his mystical heaven sect were sweating. They watched the still roaring Gu Santong with blank stares. Not just them, even the demon scheming sect was dumbstruck at such display of raw power. They never thought it possible that Stewards would call someone of such caliber, all packed neatly in a monster that was barely 7 years old. They thought the kid had a high chance of winning, but not to the point of being as easy as they saw those were mystical heaven sect's 4 dragons. Killed just like that by a kid? What's wrong with this world? The demon scheming sect experts sympathized with mystical heaven sect. What sin have they committed to suffer this father-son disaster? They all looked at Gu Santong, then at Xuan, chuckling to themselves, thank God he's on our side. Roar! As the red sound wave faded into the horizon, Gu Santong's bloodlust was far from quenched. He spread out his arms and legs, making the scarlet glow on him flicker brighter. Xuan cried out, "Oh shit, the kid is high on his wind and won't stop. Get back 5 more miles!" Xuan was the first to get the hell out of there. The rest followed. They had no clue who Gu Santong was, but his pops should be more than clear on this. The demon scheming sect team retreated again, while mystical heaven sect was just too out of it to react. By the time they came to their senses, all hope was lost. Qilin's soul might shock and awe. Gu Santong shouted and flicked his childish hands. The red Qilin image once again came out and roared hum. A dreadful shock wave flew from Gu Santong in every direction. One could see with the naked eye how the scarlet wave was moving through the air. This wave was different from before. It carried death and nothing else, like a scythe coming to reap lives. The space itself warped and threatened to crack as all that stood in its way was erased from this world, going out in a puff of dust. Sect leader Xuan and his team gasped. "Run!" Mystical Heaven Sect panicked, each going every which way. Alas, they were just too slow. They were the closest to Gu Santong to begin with and had missed their chance in getting to a safe distance from this monster in this chaotic retreat. Hundreds of people shoved, pulled, screamed, all trying to get just a little bit further, yet in a blink, the red wave caught up to them and even past them. Ack! The cries of pain littered the sky, losing their lives like they were no ethereal stage experts. But mere mortals, nothing survived, even as they used all their soul power to protect themselves. Their bodies were ashes in a blink of an eye. As for their soul, it kept being shaken until it fell apart, and the enactment of this slaughter only took a few brief moments. The people watching their friends die like that were filled with shock and dread. They watched as the red wave annihilated everything in its path, not even sparing a blade of grass, or a speck of dust rumble. It was doomsday. The beautiful and amazing Mystical Heaven Sect was being laid to waste with Gu Santong at its center. The worst part was, the destruction only increased. "Steward Xuan, what do we do if the red wave comes here?" Seeing the horrors the Mystical Heaven Sect was going through, Venerable Qi spoke with fear. Xuan waved his hand. "Just leave it to me." Xuan's right eye flashed in 5 golden halos as he shouted. "Divine Eye of the Void's 5th stage, Void Wall ×3. Hum. The space rippled and in front of them appeared 3 thick invisible walls. The red wave came and stopped before the walls, but not without giving them a good rattling. Crack! As the intense sounds echoed, everyone was on tenterhooks in fear. With a loud bang, the first wall was peeled away and the red wave moved on to the second one. Everyone's face sank, looking tensely at Xuan. "Hey, Steward Xuan, what's with your son not knowing friend from foe? He's coming after us as well." Xuan easily understood their fears and just stared at the second wall without replying. The red wave slammed into the second wall and started rattling it too, but this time, it was far weaker. With a bang, signaling its collapse, the wave came upon the third wall, but very much dimmed. It struck the third wall, shaking it a little, just like in arm wrestling, none giving an inch. Everyone tensely watched the scene. If Xuan's last void wall couldn't stop it, they would end up just like Mystical Heaven Sect, though they would be in a better spot, as the wave was much weaker than the one that culled their enemies. Chapter 754, Waste. Chapter 754, Waste. Proofreader Papatonks. Crack! With a sharp sound, Xuan's last void wall was about to fall, giving way for the red wave to attack the demon's scheming sect team's. Faces turned heavy, their hearts in their throat as they used all they had to protect themselves. Qilin held Han Qianyin close, as he used his soul power to protect both of them. Bam! Xuan's third void wall collapsed at last, and caused the others to jump. The red wave swept for them the next second, but before it reached them, it faded away into nothing, and Gu Santong's dreadful power never touched them. Startled, they all looked at each other before bursting in joy. The kid's vibration wave was like a shock wave. My void wall used separate spaces to lower its power. One can say they're mutually exclusive. Xuan eased a long breath. If not, in the face of that high-intensity vibration, even an ethereal stage expert would receive a heavy wound, if not killed outright. The others nodded, exuberant they just got out alive. Venerable gave a thumbs up. Steward Xuan, you really know your son the best. If it were anyone else, they'd suffer for it. Only you could resist it. You are his father after all, ha ha ha. The others laughed alongside him. Ha ha ha, you don't have to say that. I'm so much weaker than my kid. Since we're so far away and the kid didn't use a targeted move, I could block it. Xuan sighed. Now do you understand why I didn't want to take him out? Because this brat forgets himself, just like a child. The others nodded and felt Xuan's pain such a mighty power in the hands of a rash kid. It was not just deadly to the enemy, but even to oneself. The only reason Steward Xuan let the boy out was because the Heavenly Cycle Elders intervened. I worry he just destroyed Mystical Heaven's Sect with this move. How are we going to explain it to Double Dragon Manor? Xuan frowned and sighed. With sacred beasts' pride, they never go easy. Ever since young Sanzi was taught about being a Qilin, he's been going further and further down the path of a king of beasts. Just like earlier, the enemy was clearly crushed, but he still showed off his power as if to show he was the best in the world. He gave no thought to the consequences. This was the difference between beasts and humans. Beasts only cared about power, while humans were shrewd, turning the strong into weak, defeat into victory. Young Sanzi was a Qilin's son, so following the beast way was a given, though throwing him into the world of man was far from sensible if he lacked the tiniest bit. Xuan, his godfather, would have died alongside the enemy. Sighing, Xuan shook his head. Fiend Yang spoke in a shaken tone. See Xuan, look there. Your son didn't ruin Mystical Heaven's Sect, though there's barely anything left. He really is an ender. For crying out loud, what kind of monsters is your clan made of? One is worse than the last. The father ruled Double Dragon Gathering and the son stomps a sect? This is unnatural. The rest turned their heads to look, only to be staring. Agape Gu Santong was still acting almighty in the sky, looking down on everything, but turning to Mystical Heaven Sect, the previous nice scenery was reduced to rubble, with corpses strewn everywhere. There were also sobs and cries here and there, while blood trickled from every corner. This was hell, no two ways about it. Han Qining and Shui Rohua looked away in tears. This was their home. Chu Qingqing looked away as well, even if she hadn't been here for long. Dad, Mom, I mowed them good. It hasn't even been half an hour. Gu Santong smiled as he sped for them. The others were so scared they didn't even look him in the eye. What kind of child can raise a lower 3 sect to the ground? Fiend Yang looked worried by his attitude. He still recalled the child's annoyance with him. To any normal kid that whined, Fiend Yang would only tease him more, except for young Sanzi. He didn't have it in him. He was better off keeping a safe distance. If the guy's temper went off, there wouldn't be just whining and tears, but blood and gore. Looking at the ground littered with corpses and victims, Fiend Yang felt utter regret. Am I that bored to rub a kid's head? Xuan looked around, then smiled at Gu Santong. Young Sanzi, you did great. Leave the rest to me. You don't have to do anything now. Sure. Young Sanzi bobbed his head like a good kid, giggling innocently. Only the guys around thought. Who'd ever believe that pure smile? Seeing the bloody aftermath, Venerable Qi said, Steward Xuan, this isn't easy to settle. We need a very good reason for all of this to make the Double Dragon Manor stop, even if they come here. I know that. Xuan's eyes shone. Find sect leader Xian and Shaoyu fast. They're our only hope of coming clean out of this mess. None knew what he meant, but they obeyed. Understood. They all began their search. Venerable Qi and Bai shared a look and grinned. Crash. In a pile of rubble, sect leader Xian crawled out from all that rock, bleeding from his mouth. He had no time to address his condition as he felt the rubble shift under him and a youth clawed his way out. Only Xian Shaoyu looked deathly pale. The spiritual armor on him had long since broken into two, dangling from his body. Thank God the 9th grade spiritual armor was here to save his life. Sect leader Xian touched his hand and sent his soul power to check Xian Shaoyu's condition. He laughed in joy. Shaoyu, I'm so happy you're fine. Xian Shaoyu opened his eyes to see his father, but then he gasped. Dad, Xuan ruined our sect. We can't let him get away with this. Don't worry. I will definitely make sure he'll be ripped apart for you. Sect leader Xian's face was hard. Xian Shaoyu showed a weak smile. Great Xuan, I won't ever let you and junior sister Qingqing be happy together. Ha ha ha, you can't even protect yourself, young Master Xian. Yet you still have the luxury to worry about Qingqing and my happiness? Why thank you? Xian Shaoyu did not get to finish as a mocking tone came. Sect leader Xian looked to see Xuan bearing a sinister smile as he came over with the girls. Sect leader Xian spat. Xuan, demon fiend, you ruined my sect and still dare to show your face here? Why not? With your heavy wounds, what can you possibly do to me? Xuan raised an eyebrow. Mystical Heaven Sect's experts are now dead or wounded. Even you can't protect yourself. So why the high and mighty attitude? You. Sect leader Xuan was filled with fury, but didn't get to finish as he coughed blood again. Xuan shrugged. See, you have no power left. Your life is now in my hands. I'll be honest here. Your death or survival is at my whim. You have no choice in the matter. Sect leader Xuan remained silent, only biting his lip. Utter humiliation. A sect leader like him had never been in such a state before. Taunted by the enemy and with no way of retorting, because he knew what he said was the truth. He was now powerless. The demon scheming sect team grinned at him. Han Qianing and the girls just sighed. The great mystical heaven sect had gotten theirs, now reduced to this. Well, do you want to live or die? Xuan's eyes shone, getting to the main point. Chapter 755, Rules. Chapter 755, Rules. Proofreader Papatonks. Sect leader Xian's brow shook. He looked with gnashed teeth at Xuan but said nothing. Despite that, the humiliation was so great he clenched his fists. Xuan ignored it all and leaned over him, reaching with his venomous claw and hoisting Shaoyu by the neck. In that case, there's nothing more to talk about. Wait, what are you doing? Let him go! Sect leader Xuan cried out. He wanted to move, but he only coughed more blood. Xuan snickered as he shouted. Do you want to live or die? Sect leader Xian's eyes shook, but the words were stuck in his throat, because speaking meant surrendering. As they say, it is better to die on your feet than live on your knees. Many of the secular cultivators could do it, so why couldn't the great sect leader of Mystical Heaven Sect? But looking at his son, turning red from the grip on his neck, sect leader Xuan sighed and shook his head. When even an ant clings to life, what more's there to say about man's desire to live? What do you want, Xuan? Sect leader Xuan, that's an attitude more befitting of moving with the times, ha ha ha. Grinning, Xuan relaxed his hand and Shaoyu slumped to the ground, gasping for breath. He looked at Xuan in fear. Having lost his cocky attitude, ignoring the useless son, Xuan gave Venerable Qi a look and he threw an empty jade slip over to Sect leader Xuan. Taking it, Sect leader Xuan asked, What's this? Ha ha ha, nothing much, just hoping Sect leader Xuan can help me write something down. Xuan beamed. Sect leader Xian's hand tightened at his words and his brow furrowed. Xuan, you can't possibly be thinking of twisting facts and making my Mystical Heaven Sect be the culprit here. Sect leader Xuan knew the minute he put any word on the jade slip, his soul's signature would be imprinted on it. Then no matter how much he begged Double Dragon Manor for justice, no one would believe him. They would have no choice but to live with this stain. His hands shook and his teeth clenched together. All while the demon scheming sect team was looking at him with mockery. Yeah, that's right. We begged you and now we're robbing you of any means of fighting back. What are you gonna do about it? It's not our fault you turned out to be so weak, ha ha ha. Looking at the piles of rubble around him that were once his sect, at the dead experts and few survivors, they had no other fate than to be under someone's thumb. Sect leader Xuan sighed. His hand twitched as it held the jade slip. Sect leader Xuan, if you don't do this, we'll leave no survivors. Xuan snickered. We might even turn this place into a wasteland. You dare? Why the hell not? Xuan shouted back. The central area is getting ready for war with the other lands. Mystical Heaven Sect's demise can be written off with hundreds of excuses. Moreover, the girls were your disciples, and with a few words to Double Dragon Manor, your case will be put aside. Who would want to test the relations because of a lower 3 sect only to give room for the enemy to strike? Shaking all over, sect leader Xian's face fell. At the end of the day, rules are gimmicks used in times of peace. When the enemy comes knocking, even Double Dragon Manor would focus on the good of Western lands. Who'd have the time to waste on rules? Xuan grinned. Sect leader Xuan has been around for so long and should know this better than anyone. Sect leader Xian's clenched fist finally eased and sighed. If the central area is indeed attacking, haha, the mystical heaven sect's matter will be forgotten. I talk, you right. Ignoring him and his last probe, Xuan spoke in a cold tone, as if he already knew the central area would come. When he was just being full of it. But because he was acting like this, sect leader Xian bought it. Firstly, the matter with Xinggang. You came to her for double dragon gathering. Now that's over, the deal is also over. But you still forced her to stay. As her husband, I came to take her, but you started pushing me around, which led to war. Xuan narrated while sect leader Xian wrote down like a machine. Next, mystical heaven sect's elders picked on me with their superior numbers, and then demon scheming sect's elders came to the rescue, leading to both sides entering a bitter fight. Sect leader Xian's eyes shook, but he stayed silent. Picked on you. You were the one who got the whole sect to come in hiding, and you dare say picked on you. You did it knowing fully where it led. This Xuan is so sinister, planning it all from the start, and I fell right for it. Sect leader Xian gnashed his teeth in hatred, writing down as Xuan said it. Finally, after a hard battle, the demon scheming sect came out victorious, being lenient on you, seeing how both were sects from western lands. But the casualties were too great, and not what we hoped for. Your clan also knew this matter could have been done without bloodshed and sincerely apologized, promising to leave this matter as that. To prove it, you leave this jade slip. Finishing, Xuan nodded. That's about it. Did you get it all, sect leader Xian? For God's sake, this is clearly kicking us while we're down. I'm so mad, yet I can't even fight back. Sect leader Xian's hands shook, his breath ragged as he finished writing. Looking at the green jade slip, he wanted to crush it so badly he knew that the instant he handed it over, his loss today would be left with his sect suffering in silence. Double Dragon Manor would see that he was in the wrong, and would not take his side. They wouldn't even look into it, now with how ruined his sect was. Are these reasons enough? Seeing sect leader Xian shaking as he offered the jade slip, Xuan did not take it but looked to the others. You guys have been around western lands for longer and understand the rules better. What am I missing here? Sect leader Xian spurted blood on the spot. For crying out loud, isn't this disgrace enough? You want more? Are you trying to peel us one strip at a time? Venerable Qi smiled and shook his head. Steward Xua, these are enough. Steward Xua saving his wife after being trapped is reasonable. Our later help to Steward Xua is only natural. It's all reasonable. Even if you argue it with Double Dragon Manor, it still won't matter, ha ha ha. Hold it! Kui Lang shouted, bowing to Venerable Qi and saying, Steward Xua, I find these reasons adequate, but not enough to stir sympathy. They're too plain. Shouldn't we flourish it a bit? Pa! Xuan clapped and praised. Good man, you sure have improved after sticking with me for so long. We might be demonic cultivators, but this fight was fought for justice. Sect leader Xian, make sure you write down your endless greed, trying to extort me out of my 2,000 sacred stones, and also wanting to suck women's Yin to cure your son. It seems that in this battle, we took heaven's place in purging the demons, and setting an example for everyone. What? Sect leader Xian's face twitched and cried out. You, demonic cultivators, dare use heaven as your excuse? I told you to write, not yap. Xuan's face expression steeled. He stepped on Shaoyu's leg. Life or death, choose. Sect leader Xian's fist shook and sighed, writing down as he said it. This was no longer just a scuffle between sects, but a question of mystical heaven sect's morals. A righteous sect actually wanted to use women's Yin to cure someone and even tried stealing another sect disciple's sacred stones, although sect leader Xian did not want to admit it. Xuan truly did purge demons in this case once he handed this to the demon scheming sect. It was the same as handing blackmail evidence for them to threaten him with. They would not only be left with no means of rebuking them, but even obeying them, or when the jade slip got out, the mystical heaven sect would never rise again. If it had happened in peace times, sect leader Xian wouldn't have done it, even killed. But his son was in their hands and he had no choice but to fold. The future looked bleak, with generations being threatened by the demon scheming sect. He truly suffered more than he could have imagined this time. Seeing this, Venerable Qi patted Qiling's shoulder. Disciple, you've grown. Ha ha ha, it's all thanks to Master and Steward Zhu's teachings. Qiling bowed humbled, the others laughed, only the girls rolled their eyes and shook their heads. They're all evil demonic cultivators who only got worse with Xuan around. Chapter 756, Burden. Chapter 756, Burden. Proofreader Papatonks. Who? Letting out a long sigh, Sect leader Xian finished filling self-incriminating facts into the jade slip and slumped powerlessly to the ground. The jade slip falling at his side, Xuan flicked, and the jade slip went to his palm. Nodding after checking the content, the battle now took a righteous tone and the enemy was vanquished in heart as well. There was no need to fear Double Dragon Manor any longer. Dad, knowing what just happened, Shaoyu's face fell. Sect leader Xian showed a smile, then he looked hard at Xuan. Xuan, are we done here? Ha ha ha, of course, thanks, Sect leader Xian. Xuan nodded, then showed bloodthirst. Men, kill half of Mystical Heaven Sect disciples. Yes. The crowd shouted together and bowed. Xuan was gone as well, appearing next to Shaoyu. In his eyes filled with fear was reflected the hand that clutched his throat. Shaoyu's face went red, unable to breathe. He flailed his arms against Xuan, despite how pointless it was. He was nothing more than a weak little chick. Sect leader Xian shouted. Xuan, what are you doing? Didn't we say? Humph, ever heard of the saying, don't trust a demonic cultivator? Xuan mocked. You always curse demonic cultivators for being vile and fiends you can't trust, but at the end of it all, you still talk terms with us. Isn't that a cruel irony? The demon-scheming sect team laughed. Sect leader Xian shook, and the moment he moved from his spot, he coughed blood, then slumped back down. He could only watch as Xuan squeezed the life out of his son. Xuan had a vile smile on his face. Sect leader Xian, I never do business without assurance, much less suffering from one. In our fight with Mystical Heaven Sect we have lost many people. So, to make sure you don't come making trouble, ha ha ha, sorry, but I'll have to cripple you. But don't worry, seeing as how it involves Double Dragon Manor, I won't destroy you, nor harm you, Sect leader Xian. It would make the jade slip useless if I do, ha ha ha. With a cackle, Xuan showed his evil side, increasing his grip on Shaoyu. Sect leader Xian shook and spoke rashly. Wait, Xuan, you can kill anyone and I won't care, but please let my son go. He's my only. And you call yourself a sect leader? You only ever cared about your son and not the sect. Everyone looked at him with scorn. Han Qianying sighed and walked to Qinggang. Junior sister, your man is amazing. Even the sect leader is being toyed with. But this is a bit too cruel. After all, Mystical Heaven Sect has once been our home. We have many brothers and sisters here. Han Qianying did not finish, but her meaning was loud and clear, for Qinggang to plead for them. Every king rose to his throne by trampling on a mountain of corpses. Qinggang sighed as she hesitated. She had once been the ruler of Drifting Flowers edifices, and knew this cruelty. Being soft now would only come back as misery to bite you. Drifting Flowers edifices had suffered so much for so long, and she could understand Xuan in this. This man was not as cruel as he looked, but doing all for self-preservation. It was easy to speak for Mystical Heaven Sect, but she could not risk knowing it might bring Xuan pain later on. Even with the girls looking at her like that, she still held her ground. Qinggang! One aged voice sounded that stunned everyone. Sect leader Xian looked from the ground at Qinggang with begging eyes. Qinggang, when you wanted to save that girl's life, I helped you. The condition for that was to come to Mystical Heaven Sect and save my son. That was our deal. Because of you, Xuan came and ruined my sect. I'm not asking you to hold your end, but at least let my son live. What? Qinggang knew everything. Shui Rohua looked at her in shock. You mean you were ready to give yourself up? Yes, she knew everything, unlike you. Because she owed me, she would do anything I asked. Sect leader Xian shouted. A bit of favor yet returning endless gratitude. Because you met him again, you chose to break your promise. I did not mind. You wanted to see him again afterward and made another promise which I agreed to. But now, I see the last agreement won't be fulfilled. I give you back your freedom and only hope you can stay Xuan's hand. Leave. Crash. Sect leader Xian did not finish. Chu Qingqing did not speak either. Then they heard Shaoyu crashing to the ground. Coughing in pain, Xuan released him with a calm face, then ignored the father and son, walking to Chu Qingqing. He took her shoulder and left while shouting, "Demon scheming sect, withdraw! Aren't we killing mystical heaven sect's men? There's still 100 ethereal stage experts breathing. Once they recover they..." Fiend Yang started, but Xuan only held Chu Qingqing as he said, "I said withdraw. This fight is over." The demon scheming sect team looked at him oddly, then shrugged as they followed Xuan leaving. "Master, look after yourself. I'm going with Qilin." Han Qianying took Shui Ruohua and Danner after saying her last words to sect leader Xian. Sect leader Xian shook, his face dark. Only Xian Shaoyu was still coughing, looking at Xuan going away, and spoke with vitriol. "Father, we must take Rev." "Shut it!" Sect leader Xian grabbed his mouth and looked at Xuan in worry. Seeing as he did nothing, he relaxed, then cursed. "Are you suicidal? He didn't kill all of us because of Chu Qingqing. Junior sister Qingqing." Xian Shaoyu frowned, gnashing his teeth. "I won't let that vile spawn take her. One day I will get her back." Sect leader Xian gave him a long look, then nodded. With a steel gaze, he thought, "Don't worry, Shaoyu, the day will come. You still need her for your illness." Meanwhile, Xuan and Chu Qingqing walked out of mystical heaven sect hand in hand. With a faint smile, the two were in their own world as a group of third wheels approached. Chu Qingqing worried. "Is it really alright to let them go? Maybe they'll harm you later." "Yeah, Steward Xue, I think it's best we finish them off. Just like you said, the central area is attacking and Double Dragon Manor won't." "You're wrong," Fiend Yang approached to say, but Xuan mocked. "Did you also believe my bluff back then? Central area's matter is only a rumor. Who knows if it's true? I only used it to scare him. If the central area remains quiet, the Double Dragon Manor won't leave this matter be. That's why we can't ignore Double Dragon Manor's rules and give us more trouble." Fiend Yang nodded, then Xuan spoke heavily. "Qingqing, Mystical Heaven Sect had given us a favor back then. I will help, take the burden on myself, since what happened to Ning'er was your problem is my problem." Chu Qingqing was direct. Xuan nodded and smiled. "Yes, your problems are my problems. Since this binds you to Mystical Heaven Sect, I'll help you break it and not affect your heart. But then I'm a demonic cultivator, carrying all that hatred is nothing." Xuan smiled at her and looked her in the eye with conviction. "With me next to you, no one will force you again." Chu Qingqing started and nodded in happiness. She rested her head on his shoulder. Her heart at peace, she felt like she was back to Drifting Flowers City's shabby house, with only the two of them around. Chapter 757, Killing Xian Shaoyu. Chapter 757, Killing Xian Shaoyu. Proofreader Papatonks. "Shit, their lovey-dovey display is so blinding it pales to my 24-karat eyes." Fiend Yang cried out and held his eyes. The others chuckled. Give the lovely couple a queer smile. Xuan just shrugged at Chu Qingqing. "Looks like we need to shake off these blind fools or they'll ruin our mood." Chu Qingqing giggled, however. A shout was heard and a familiar figure came leading tens of thousands of worn-out soldiers. "Brother Xue, did we win?" Luo Yuhai asked in joy, sticking out his chest. Gu Santong spoke with pride. "Of course. When I go, nothing can stop me. The one to blame is my dad for letting me out so late, or I'd have long since wasted them." "Oh, so you did it. No wonder so many died in this fight, with thousands experts from my clan as well." Luo Yuhai broke into cold sweat as he watched Gu Santong's prideful face. "Young Sanzi truly is amazing. But maybe could you give us a signal the next time you fight?" "Eh?" Gu Santong was startled while the others shook their heads. This kid is that ignorant of his raw power? Give us a signal to get some cover. But seeing Gu Santong so oblivious, Luo Yuhai did not explain, lest he get the little ball of rage angry. "Big brother Xue!" Luo Yuhai turned to Xuan. Although we didn't need to attack the treasury, since it fell under young Sanzi's move and we had no chance to use the resources, we still managed to get some spoils of war and got to rob it. Demon Scheming Sect's hearts twitched. The mystical Heaven Sect has been around for millennia. Their treasury must be loaded. They won the battle but were so focused on the joy that they forgot something so basic. How stupid of us. So Fiend Yuan was the first to jump in. Oh, clan head of the secular world, we're all allies here. We should settle the accounts, since we did so much hard work ourselves. We should get the biggest share. Ha ha ha, relax, we only came to help Brother Xue. All of it will be yours. Luo Yuhai waved his hands like it was nothing. Fiend Yang raised an eyebrow and nodded. This kid is upright and good. What kind of ally doesn't want to be paid after being asked for help? The other elders were also admiring him. Xuan, who would fight for every stone, shook his head. Yuhai, I'll make it up for Luo clan for their help. Brother Xue, we're all a family. What make it up to us? Luo Yuhai waved his hand, glancing at Chu Qingqing. Brother Xue, we did find something in the treasury you might want to see. Xuan raised an eyebrow. What? Luo Yuhai gave Qiu Yuhai a look, and he presented a ring. Xuan received it, and took out its items. It had 3 jade slips. Xuan looked over the first and was stunned. Heavenly Cycle Dragon Array? Yes, it's the one the Heavenly Cycle Elders used. Luo Yuhai spoke, keep reading. Xuan took the second one with doubt. 4 Elements Cycle Array? Yes, the array from which the Heavenly Cycle Dragon Array was developed. Qiu Yuhai spoke carefully. Steward Xue, check the last one. Xuan gave the 2 a long look, then scanned the 3rd jade slip. Only this time, his eyes exploded white bloodlust. The crowd looked puzzled. Not far, Sect leader Xian held his son up and gave him a recovery pill. His eyes flashed. Shaoyu, don't worry, I'll surely get Chu Qingqing back. Whoosh. However, he did not finish as a black figure appeared in front and punched him. Rumble. Sect leaders Xian and Xian Shaoyu had no time to react. Xian Shaoyu was reduced to pieces and blood as he splattered on the rubble with the blood and gore dripping from Sect leader Xian's face. He was still too stunned to register it as he looked at the hard and cold face of Xuan. Why you? Sect leader Xian's eyes were filled with tears. Choked with emotion to speak, Xuan gave him an icy look. Sect leader Xian, thank you for your help with Ninger. By letting Mystical Heaven Sect go, all accounts are settled. Xuan left with a dead face, walking to Chu Qingqing and the others. Sect leader Xian's white hair was a mess, his eyes lost. He did not know why he thanked him for saving the girl, nor why he came back to kill his only son. Seeing the blood around, Sect leader Xian crumbled to his knees and howled in pain and sorrow. Xuan was back among his people, who were curious about why he first let Xian Shaoyu go only to kill him. Now only Luo Yuhai and his men knew. Yuhai, destroy it. I don't want anyone to see it. Xuan spoke. Luo Yuhai nodded, letting out a relieved chuckle. Xuan came to Chu Qingqing and held her waist as they walked. She just looked at Luo Yuhai curiously. What's that? Nothing of importance. Xuan shook his head. Qingqing, you have your own principles that I will protect, taking on me all the sins and crimes. But... Xuan gnashed his teeth. If you are in danger, no matter the principle, even my path, I'll cross them all. Chu Qingqing gave him a long look and smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder in happiness. I don't want you to give up everything for me. I only want to help you achieve your ambition. Seeing them go, the others looked at Luo Yuhai. Fiend Yuan was smiling from ear to ear. Luo clan head, what was that? Nothing you should know about. Luo Yuhai spoke in a hard tone. Brother Xue wants this destroyed so no one can see it. Or the ending of Mystical Heaven Sect's young master. Ugh. They all shook and coughed, looking at Xuan. Since it was so dangerous, they could stall their curiosity. It was much better to live once all were gone. Luo Yuhai looked at the 3rd jade slip. He let out a long breath and shook his head. Empty spirit body, the desire of every cultivator. It can even help gods, but look what disaster it brought. But one thing is certain, the Heavenly Cycle Elders sure were geniuses to come up with such an array. With a smile, Qiu Yuhai sighed. From Heavenly Cycle Dragon Array to 4 Elements Cycle Array, to come up with ha ha ha. I bet it was made to fit the young sect leader like a glove. Nodding, Luo Yuhai sighed. Yeah, why else would Brother Zhuo go back on his words and kill the one he just spared? As long as he's around, the Mystical Heaven Sect would never let go of Sister Qingqing, the best cauldron. But even so, there may be one coming later on who would want her. Qiu Yanhai's eyes shone. Luo Yuhai nodded. That's why Brother Zhuo wanted it destroyed. This is an array to exchange a life for a life. Qiu Yanhai gave a heavy nod, then had the 3 jades slip hold in his hand and used his power. Hot energy was released. If you just crush them, someone dead set on it might recover them. Allow me to destroy them. However, a beautiful figure appeared. Wait. Sister Qingqing. Miss Qingqing. The two looked shocked. What are you doing here? Chapter 758, Countering Demon Scheming Sect. Chapter 758, Countering Demon Scheming Sect. Proofreader Papatonks. Half an hour later, Xuan unsealed Han Qianying and Shuiruo's cultivations. The two quickly opened the sect array and the demon scheming sect with the Luo clan left after taking care of their wounded and burying their dead. Even after everyone left, Xuan stayed behind. He had unsealed Xu Qingqing's cultivation a while back, and yet she immediately went away saying she had something to do. Now he was waiting for her whoosh. Xu Qingqing's amazing figure came back before Xuan with a smile. I'm back. That's good. Let's go as well. Xuan nodded and held her hand tightly. Xu Qingqing was startled. Aren't you going to ask me where I was? Ha ha ha, no matter where you go, as long as it's not dangerous, I won't ask, and I'd even let you go. Xuan chuckled. You're my wife, not an underling nor a prisoner. You have your own freedom. Xu Qingqing beamed with joy. We truly know each other best. He knows me and I know him. They also did not want all their affairs to be known either, to feel like they were being watched. So Xu Qingqing did not ask about Xuan's matter, and he didn't ask about hers either. This was mutual respect. However, the two's silent agreement hadn't lasted 3 steps, as Xuan said with a frown. Qingqing, just where did you go? Xu Qingqing rolled her eyes and giggled. Didn't you say you won't ask? Why are you going back on your word? Ha ha ha, sorry, I know that I shouldn't restrain you, but I can't help but know everything about you, down to the last detail. This is such a complicated feeling. Xuan shook his head. It's my first time feeling like this and I don't understand. It feels so impulsive. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. I respect your wish. However, Xu Qingqing stopped him and flashed the thunder ring on her finger in front of him. I went back for this. After Mystical Heaven Sect trapped me, they even took my storage ring. I went after it. I see, so it was nothing, ha ha ha. Xuan nodded. Xu Qingqing glared. What nothing? This ring comes as a pair, a proof of our relationship. How is it nothing? Yeah, you're right, ha ha ha. Xuan nodded, his heart warm and fuzzy. Despite being a thunder ring, this ring of his was also a sacred ring, unlike the one she had, which was simple. Even though he made it, Xu Qingqing cared for it because it represented their bond, which filled him with happiness. However, their little warm bubble was soon broken as Xu Qingqing recalled something and mocked. Oh, I was wrong. The ring isn't a pair since there's another one. Something similar is worn by Miss Luo. Well. Xuan was sweating. Xu Qingqing went on with a smile. These 3 rings will be together later on, and we will live happily together. Qingqing, she isn't like that. She's just family, and the ring was already passed to Yuhai, the keepsake of Luo clan head. Oh, I see. Then Shuang Yongning, Lianer Miss Shui. Xuan's mouth twitched. Qingqing, you're the leader of Drifting Flowers edifices, a person of power. Yeah, but sometimes I'm impulsive too. I don't want to limit you. It's just that when Sister Peony sent me those sending jades containing strange information, my heart felt heavy. Batting her eyes, Xu Qingqing showed her mischievous side. Xuan's eyes shook, cursing Peony for being a busybody. Then he shook his head. Chu Qingqing's assault never relented as she kept asking awkward questions and putting Xuan on the spot. This was how they walked out of this place, hand in hand in this moment. The two were unlike the high cultivators they were, nor deep schemers, just a loving couple. They bicker, they nag, and they flirt. Seeing the two go, Luo Yuhai and Qiu Yuhai shared a pained look. Luo Yuhai sighed and said, Brother Xue asked us to destroy the jade slip before anyone saw it, but in the end Sister Qingqing saw it too. What now? Clan head, it's all fine. Qiu Yuhai pondered. Steward Xue wanted no one to set their eyes on Miss Chu. Now that the jade slip is destroyed, Miss Chu can't be hurting herself, right? It's fine. Thinking it over, Luo Yuhai nodded. I hope so. But Brother Xue's order was to not let anyone see it. Now that Sister Qingqing did, how do we tell him? Miss Chu said it herself, to just not include her. They're together anyway, so it won't matter, ha ha ha. Qiu Yuhai scratched his head. Clan head, I'm a knowledgeable old man, and some things are better not taken so seriously. It's best to gloss over it. When you have a lady yourself, you'll know what it means to be love-struck. Giving the old man a long look, Luo Yuhai nodded. Since Sister Qingqing and Brother Xue are family, it's fine if there are some things hidden from the husband or wife. The two then nodded, reaching a decision, and hurried to catch up. However, to Chu Qingqing, she had lied to Xuan for the first time, and due to their trust, Xuan did not suspect anything, but this, however, was foreordained to become Xuan's biggest regret of his lives. After leaving, they rested for half a month 10 miles from Mystical Heaven Sect and continued onward. Xuan had given Li Jingtian and the elders pills and helped them recover faster. The demon scheming sect was jubilant in the meantime from the spoils of war they got after that big fight. The happiest was Xinggang. His darling son, Xinggang, was seeing his mother for the first time. He now knew that his father prepared this surprise for him. They hugged in tears and in joy, holding each other close. Venerable Qi was very much against Qilin and the girl from the Mystical Heaven Sect getting together, but this time they seized Mystical Heaven Sect and cut their arrogance down to size, not to mention they got a little something extra for their troubles. He didn't even mind seeing Xuan happy with his lady. Moreover, since Steward Xue managed to get a girl from a righteous sect to join him, his disciple couldn't? Maybe this victory would be enough to make sect leader overlook it anyway. The result was better than the fault, leaving room for discussion. And so, the whole group continued on. Xuan did not separate from them and went back to the demon scheming sect with the Luo clan. They then arrived at the valley where the two teams met for the first time. Xuan and Yongning were anxiously waiting under Yuling and Qi Changlong's care. After all joined up, the girls were overjoyed to see Chu Qingqing was saved. The girls all gathered around and talked, being close sisters with Chu Qingqing. Chu Qingqing also joined the conversation with a smile. However, while they were still lost in their victory, Xuan suddenly shouted, "Listen up, the fighting isn't over." They all turned to Xuan with a puzzled look. What do you mean the fight isn't over? Isn't Mystical Heaven Sect ruined? First of all, I've been hiding something from all of you. Xuan was dead serious as he pulled Chu Qingqing in front. I've attacked Mystical Heaven Sect for my personal reason, to save my wife. I thank you all for your help. Xuan cupped his hands before them. The people were stunned, then laughed. Ha ha ha, Steward Xue, we already figured it out. What's the big problem? Yeah, with your merit, fighting to get a woman won't make sect leader say anything. Venerable by laughed. Xuan shook his head and watched the crowd. This was what I wanted to tell you. Sect leader Xiaoyu doesn't know about our fight with Mystical Heaven Sect. It was all me. Ugh! They all stood dumbstruck, hardly believing Xuan's words. Impersonating the sect leader was a serious offense. To even take all of the sect's experts and fight another, that was inexcusable. With Xiaoyu's temper, they could see how this wouldn't end well, and they shook all over seeing them react like that. Xuan squinted. He spoke something that gave them the biggest shock of all. It almost blew their minds. That's why we are now going to counterattack the demon scheming sect and seize power. Proofreader note: whoa, the author really planted several flags in this chapter. Chapter 759, Uprising. Chapter 759, Uprising. Proofreader Papatonks. SSS. Gasping, everyone was floored by this shocking revelation. This is an uprising, plain and simple. First you went to beat one sect into the ground, and now coming back to beat your own. It was beyond what any of the demon-scheming sect experts imagined. They went out of the sect only to come back as rebels. They were all demonic cultivators, sure, but their loyalties still laid with their sect. This was too much to take, and even outsiders like Han Qianying were speechless at Xuan's brazen declaration. She walked over to Chu Qingqing and whispered, "Junior sister, your man is truly brutal. He doesn't just go against his sect, he wants all the other elders and venerables to be there with him. They must be regretting it now, for being toyed with by your man. Senior sister, Xuan isn't after wealth and glory. He's only looking after himself." Chu Qingqing sighed. Han Qianying nodded. "Maybe since impersonating the sect leader and giving orders to attack another sect deserves capital punishment. If he doesn't rise now, the demon-scheming sect would hunt him down forever. While everyone can see it, that doesn't mean everyone would be so decisive. He is a man that knows what to do. Unlike my Qilin, who likes to boast, he'll never do it in his life." Chu Qingqing nodded. Looking at Xuan's straight figure and confidence, her eyes swam in love. Her husband was the boldest hero, doing everything without looking back. No matter what situation he was in, his eyes had always looked at things from a different perspective. Looking coldly at those shocked faces, Xuan spoke. "Actually, I am all for a peaceful resolution and not revolting. You all know that I am about to leave the demon-scheming sect and don't care for wealth and glory. However, there's no way I'm going to let others take my life. This is as low as I'll ever go." The crowd looked at each other with confusion in their eyes, not knowing what to say. "I know what you're thinking, to make me take all the blame." Xuan was quite calm despite having seen their intentions. "I had thought about this as well. Everything that happened so far is because of me, so taking responsibility is only natural. If my life can save everyone, I'm willing to give it. But just think for a second. Will Xiaoyu let you go with his foul mood?" They all shook at Xuan's words, their last hope crushed to pieces. Giving them a cold look, Xuan shouted, "Wake up! Stop resorting to petty tricks and dreaming for hopeless peace. Everyone knows of Xiaoyu's cruelty. Would he let you live after you used the sect's name to attack another sect's elders without his orders? This was a clear challenge to his authority. You of all people should know him better than me. But this isn't. Yes, I faked his orders." Someone stood up, pointing a feeble finger at Xuan, but he cut him off. "You must understand, what difference would it make, when you'd be guilty by association? Why would the inner sect elders come along with me? Humph, as matters stand, Xiaoyu has already lost his trust in you. While he won't do anything to you for now, since the demon-scheming sect has 10,000 sacred stones, in 100 years, there would be plenty of homegrown elders and venerables to replace you along the way. You best not forget who you are, my labor office's elders. You have taken on my symbol for a long time now, and can't escape this. The minute Xiaoyu labels me a traitor would be the moment you all will be taken care of. It's only a question of time. In the demon-scheming sect it is the inner sect and Venerable sure who have the true power. Working hard for so many years to seize power back, only to lose it all in the end. Would you be willing to accept that?" A shiver went through them all, hearing Xuan's passionate speech. They were now filled with regret and unwillingness. Venerable stood up, holding out his hands. "Listen to me, friends, Steward Xuan is right. While it does look like he set us up, we should not forget that it was also Steward Xuan that helped us earn so much in the labor office. We and Steward Xuan have been on the same side from the start. Returning to the sect now, if sect leader does not pursue this and will overlook it, then we won't have a civil war. But if he insists on holding Steward Xuan accountable, then we will have to stand up. Steward Xuan is our leader, and when he falls, we fall with him. If Steward Xuan is gone, sect leader can finish us off whenever he wants to. We're nothing to him and can't fight him either. That's why, labor office elders, we must assure that Steward Xuan is alive and well." "Yes, Venerable Bai is right." Venerable Qi stood up as well. We must not fall for sect leaders' delay tactics, because we have an overwhelming advantage. We've all seen the power the Luo clan displayed in the battle with the mystical heaven sect, especially Steward Xuan's son. It can be said that at this moment, we hold the power. If sect leader won't give us a straight answer, it's time for a change in leadership. Being indecisive and stalling will only get us killed. Everyone here knows just how brutal sect leader can be. Hearts stirred with their speech and the people nodded as a fire lit in their eyes, just like Venerable Qi said. With such power on their side, taking the sect was a done deal, but once the Luo clan left, they'd be nothing more than another neck on the chopping block. When Xiaoyu started hacking, this was not the time to dawdle. Seeing the looks they sported, filled with resolve, Venerable Qi looked from Steward Xuan to the others. Moreover, we've all seen the fight between sect leaders Xian and Xuan. They were evenly matched. That is why it is my opinion that if Xiaoyu's tyranny comes to an end, Steward Xuan would make a fine sect leader. Ha ha ha. Hail, sect leader Xuan. All of them turned their heads and greeted as they got ready for an uprising. Just like in an imperial revolt, they called out their leader as the true Emperor. Xuan raised an eyebrow and glanced at Venerable Qi. Xuan then laughed, holding his hand for silence. Hear my order. Get ready for counter-attacking demon scheming sect. Yes, sir. They all cupped their hands, filled with battle spirit. The morale was actually higher than when they set out for mystical heaven sect. Because this was a civil war they couldn't afford to lose. Fiend Yang held his head and sighed. Wu Yue, you brought it on yourself. Look what your constant criticism of them has brought. They are revolting, while you are still dreaming of being a top middle 3 sect. Just how am I supposed to help you? Fiend Yang shook his head, catching up with the others and in deep thought on how to solve this. Xuan and Xiaoyu were good friends with the fiends, but now, who were they to side with? This was a true uprising against leadership, to take the crown. Meanwhile, just outside the demon scheming sect's barrier, the door was opened and Xiaoyu waltzed in, beaming with joy, unaware his sect leader's seat was hanging by a thread. The sect leader is back. The sect leader is back. 2 children ran to the inner sect to report. Xiaoyu walked on, smug and happy. It was obvious from a mile his trip outside was one filled with flattery directed at his rear. He barely took 2 steps before he frowned. He looked around puzzled. Why is the sect so quiet? Where is everyone? Sect leader? Shouts came, Venerable sure leading 100 inner sect elders as they rushed over. They bowed at once. Sect leader, I'm ashamed for being so late in welcoming you, ha ha ha. Xiaoyu looked at them in doubt. What's going on? Why just you guys? What about the rest? The elders, venerables, and even disciples, where are they? Sect leader, didn't you tell Steward Xuan to take them out? They have yet to return. Venerable sure fake Xiaoyu was stunned. Xuan? Didn't he leave? Why is he back? Also, when did I tell him to take out the sect's elders? It wasn't your order? But he held your token. Playing his act till the end, Venerable sure muttered confusedly. This is bad. Chapter 760, A Mover and a Shaker. Chapter 760, A Mover and a Shaker. Proofreader Papatonks. Whoosh. A huge crowd gathered outside the demon scheming sect. It was Xuan and his army, with Uprising the only thought on their minds. All had shed the hesitation from before, now ready to kill. Looking at the familiar barrier, Xuan grinned. Xiaoyu, I'm no pawn you can use and then throw away. I didn't care about the demon scheming sect before, but since you wanted a fight, I'll get you first and take the sect as well. This is about Qingqing and my life. I'm not about to be soft with you. Xuan looked at Luo Yuhai. Yuhai, you with the clansmen and young Sanzi are to hold this place. If a battle strikes out, someone will be coming to let you in. Yes, brother Xuan. Luo Yuhai cupped his hands. Young Sanzi also nodded and gave a thumbs up, slapping his chest. No worries, Dad, with me here, just tell me where to stomp and it'll be flattened in no time. Young master, this isn't mystical heaven sect. We still want to cultivate here later. Please go easy as much as possible, ha ha ha. Venerable Qi sweated as he sighed. The others laughed, while young Sanzi's insane power had him vexed, he was the best insurance they had. With the little freak around, their win was a given. Even if the inner sect had High Venerable to interfere, it wouldn't do a damn thing. Not since this young master finished off Heavenly Cycle Elders like nothing. Xuan cleared his throat and shouted, "Let's go! The world is about to change!" Xuan took the first step forward, with Chu Qingqing at his side. The others followed right behind him, all ready to attack their own sect no matter how prepared one is. Being on guard around one's own men was hard. The barrier easily opened, letting these beasts waltz in like they owned the place. Suddenly, 4 figures flashed. The crowd was stunned to see the 4 scheming demons. "Relax, they're with us. I had them watch the place for movements." Xuan had them take it easy and asked the pygmies, "Tell me, did Xiaoyu return?" Violent Demon nodded and cupped his hands. "Steward Xue, sect leader, has been back for a month now. When he heard you took 2/3 of the sect's power out, he blew his top. Lately, he took his anger on a dozen disciples, killing them where they stood. Ha ha ha, I knew it. We'll be going all out, it seems." Xuan waved and walked on. "What of Venerable Shi and his faction? Did some suspicious people or experts appear?" "Steward Xue, Venerable Shi's side has only been inciting discord." The 4 scheming demons walked with Xuan as they reported. The others were stunned. Steward Xue was ready to rise from the start. He even had spies left behind. He truly is a wise man to think about rebelling even before he attacked Mystical Heaven Sect. Demon Scheming Sect will definitely go further with him than it ever could with Xiaoyu. While rebelling isn't exactly honorable, but we will now have an even better sect leader, worthy of past sect leader generations. Venerable Qilin Bai nodded, their hearts at peace with that excuse. Xuan's team arrived at the main hall. The huge crowd and their mighty aura diminished the grand main hall's vibe. It even made Xiaoyu frown inwardly with worry, forcing him to come out. "Who dares show off before the sect leader's main hall?" Xiaoyu came to the door and saw the army. Then he saw Xuan in front and squinted as he spat. "Xuan, you dare return?" Xuan raised an eyebrow. "And why not? I'm a demon scheming sect disciple. It is my home. It's normal to return home." "Humph, rotten traitor!" Xiaoyu cursed. "You first fooled me when you left the sect, so that when I went to discuss with the empires, you came soon after, impersonating me with my token, taking every expert of the labor office. You have undermined my authority. By demon scheming sect's rules, you are to be executed." Just then, Venerable Shi showed up at the most convenient moment with his inner sect contingency, standing behind Xiaoyu like old friends. Everyone found it odd, only Xuan snickering. "I knew it." Venerable Shi had been bored for so many days, waiting for this moment to act. Others might not know how this switch in allegiances worked, but Xuan did. As interests shifted, so did relations, from allies to enemies and vice versa. It was just like yin and yang. At the smallest change, yin could become yang and yang yin. Deficit could become profit and profit deficit when one least expected. Venerable Shi held control over the inner sect's profits, to the point Xiaoyu felt his hands were tied. So he had no choice but to bring an outsider to work with in turning all of Venerable Shi's profit into crumbs. This had forced Venerable Shi to step back, but in fact was waiting for the 2 allies' fame to come head to head. In other words, Xuan's fame was what got Xiaoyu to get him here, to stop the inner sect. But now, since the inner sect was out of the fight, Xiaoyu found that Xuan's name was threatening him, thus affecting his ambitions and making him change his stance. From ally to enemy, only when the 2 tigers were facing off did Venerable Shi step in. He would side with one and killing the other would be a cinch. Ruining their alliance was the best scheme ever. Even with the 2 knowing this, they had to face off in the end, all while Venerable Shi would stand at the sideline and reap the most from their ego clash. There was just one tiny detail Venerable Shi overlooked. Xuan was just as adept, if not more, in these tactics as well. At first he tried to avoid conflict with Xiaoyu, his subdued attitude and downplay of his merits letting him to drop his guard. Since the kid would be gone, He had no reason to be anxious. Xuan did this because he had that intention as well, but also because he was weaker and had to look after himself. But then he learned of Chu Qingqing's predicament, and Xuan had to interfere. So he became a mover and a shaker, using all his name to get everyone to go to war for him, and since this meant crossing the other, then he might as well go all out and counterattack the sect after all. When one's strong enough, all the scheming wasn't worth a stone. This was what Venerable had failed to see. Xuan had 2/3 of the demon scheming sect behind him, with the Luo clan and young Sanzi right at the gates. Even with Venerable and Xiaoyu joining hands, they still couldn't touch him, though the two had yet to sense it. Xiaoyu flicked his hand, displaying his full authority as sect leader. "Men, take Xuan away." The silence was deafening. Xiaoyu's words echoed in everyone's ears, but no one paid them any heed. What was worse, they looked at him with scorn. Xiaoyu looked hard at them and cursed. "What do you think you're doing? Did you not hear my orders?" "Ha ha ha, relax, sect leader. With how close the labor office's elders are to Steward Xue, they couldn't possibly do it. Then I will just have to do it myself, for sect leader." Even though Venerable was ignorant, he did not forget to paint the labor office in a bad light, saying that they were on Xuan's side and not Xiaoyu's trusted aides, but even he wouldn't believe that his assumption was right on the money. This thought never crossed his mind. Venerable waved. "Men, take Xuan, this sect leader impersonator." "Yes, sir." 2 elders behind him bowed and snickered. They moved towards Xuan with Venerable watching from behind in glee. This way he would use Xiaoyu to strike Xuan, his trusted aide, and at those old fools in the labor office. However, the two had yet to reach Xuan as bloodlust exploded from behind him. It forced the two to halt. The smug Venerable was shocked. Looking at the scene in disbelief, he could see that everyone behind Xuan was filled with zeal and intent to fight. Don't tell me these guys are in cahoots with Xuan. Venerable finally knew the situation was worse than he thought, and sweat started trickling down his spine. Chapter 761, Elder Yuan. Chapter 761, Elder Yuan. Proofreader Papatonks. Crap, I underestimated this kid. Venerable eyes widened, his face growing darker as his heart beat like crazy in his chest. The stone-cold look he got was enough to make him break out in sweat. The original plan was to use Xiaoyu in getting rid of Xuan in the most open fashion and curb the labor office's growth. How was he to know Xuan was so resolute and cruel in rebelling? What made it worse was he got so many elders on his side as well. In that very moment, it dawned on him that Xiaoyu's name as sect leader rang hollow. As he stood there next to this mighty sect leader, it didn't seem to offer as much support as he thought. On the contrary, the danger only increased, becoming just another target for the enemy to erase. It was anything but what he planned, losing instead of gaining anything. Xuan works too damn fast. Venerable gnashed his teeth, his heart filled with hatred. Why on earth didn't I act sooner? Letting him use the token instead to take the elders away for his own selfish reason. This way, at least there would not be any serious consequences. Going against the labor office's elders' theatrics wouldn't affect him much, but at the very least it would not give the enemy the initiative now. Though the kid and the oldies were in tandem, they're strong and I'm weak. Getting rid of him is impossible, while my side is in serious danger of being terminated. The thought alone made Venerable sweat buckets, and filled him with denial to go down like this. Before his plan even got to be used, it was already scrapped. He'd been patiently waiting all this time, only to find out his efforts helped the enemy instead. However, just then, as the two sides stared each other down, and were on the brink of war, someone shouted, "Wait!" They all turned to see Fiend Yang wobble as he rushed over between them with a bright smile at Xiaoyu. "Fiend Yang, what are you doing? Even you want to defy my order?" Because his authority had been undermined and he was now too enraged, all Xiaoyu wanted right now was to get rid of Xuan. This had made him blind to the situation as he shouted. Fiend Yang sighed on the inside, giving Xiaoyu a helpless look, but forced a smile. "Wu, this is your fault. Xuan had taken us but did not do anything to shame the sect. He had instead increased it through his commendable results." As a sect leader, you should reward him, not punish him. Commendable? For what exactly? Xiaoyu was confused. Fiend Yang snickered as he stuck out his chin, laughing. What, you ask? Ha ha ha, brothers, please report to sect leader our great success. Let him bask in the glory. Everyone just watched this smug Fiend Yang without uttering a word. All here, besides Xiaoyu, who was too pissed off to read more into it, noticed something in his tone and words. He said it to smooth things over and get over this problem without bloodshed. Fiend Yang had others give sect leader a report to show respect to Xiaoyu and his status. I'm not here for your chair and you won't kill me. Everyone's happy. Alas, their stance as rebels was already established. Could mere words write it off? Even if that happened, no matter how unlikely, it all came down to the boss, so everyone turned their eyes on Xuan, awaiting his signal. But seeing how he was the center of it all, Xiaoyu's rage only increased, wanting nothing more than to break him to pieces. Demon scheming sect leader is me, Xiaoyu. Now you ask Xuan's permission to report to me? What does that make me? Maybe anger was consuming him, making the shrewd Xiaoyu unable to think about anything else. These elders had long since stopped caring about him. He was no longer their sect leader. Everything that they had and were in this moment was because of Xuan. Venerable Bai, report to sect leader. Grumbling inside, he saw Fiend Yang's pleading look and Xuan sighed, deciding to give Xiaoyu one last chance. He only ever wanted to leave with Chu Qingqing. If not for his life being threatened, he would not even think about taking on the burdens of a sect leader. It would be great if words could smooth things over. Hearing Xuan, Fiend Yang was ecstatic. Venerable Bai looked long at Xuan, then nodded, speaking to Xiaoyu in a cold tone. Steward Xue had taken us to sweep clean mystical heaven sect. We achieved a sound victory and glory, one unheard of since the founding of the sect. Of unprecedented and… What? You actually took the sect's experts to wage war on another sect without permission? Xiaoyu cut Venerable Bai off, roaring. Who the hell do you think you are to make such a judgment without any right? Men, take this traitor away. For his heinous crimes, he's to be executed. Fiend Yang started and rushed to take something out, several high-grade spiritual gear. Wu, listen to me, these are just a few of the spoils we got. We robbed the mystical heaven sect's treasury clean. Defeated them. Get lost! Xiaoyu was too far gone in his anger. His eyes were red, looking at Xuan with vitriol. For overstepping his place and undermining my authority, Xuan's crimes are inexcusable. He will be executed and any that tries to plead for him will join him in death. Xiaoyu's roar was heard by all. Fiend Yang gave him a long look but sighed. Fiend Yin and Fiend Gui were sad. Xiaoyu, can't you see that all that Fiend Yang did was for you and not Xuan? Xuan now has real power behind him. Why can't you see that? Greed has got to him and made him lose sight of reality. Venerable sure shook his head. Now that Xiaoyu has given into anger and lost his senses, he's unable to see that the sect is no longer his. With his old power as sect leader, he could put down any elder whenever he wanted. But now, he no longer had the people's support to do that. Taking his side now is plain suicide. Venerable sure stepped back as he thought, glancing at the incensed Xiaoyu. Xuan turned his eyes to the side. Venerable Bai, are you sure you didn't say it like that to drive him even more mad? You didn't even address him as sect leader. Ha ha ha, Steward Xue saw through me. But once this starts, it has to be followed through to the end. There are no half measures here. For when you, sir, and Lady Chu leave, old guys like us will be left behind to suffer Xiaoyu's wrath. Venerable Bai bowed to Xuan. We all see Steward Xue to be far more suited as sect leader than Xiaoyu. Your merits pave your glorious future. Please, Steward Xue, do not decline. Xuan gave him a hard look and nodded. Then attack. Men, take Xiaoyu away! Venerable Bai's eyes glinted in joy as he shouted. The other elders and venerables were filled with fighting spirit as they shot for Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu was rooted to the spot in shock. Come again? Why are they attacking me? Are they rebelling? Only now did he begin to notice that his enemy was not Xuan alone, but all these elders who had a change of heart. Venerable Sure, what do we do? Seeing the enemy coming with savagery, one inner elder deferred to Venerable Sure. Venerable Sure was resolute. When trouble is too much, escape. He was the first to bolt, with the other inner experts not far behind, ignoring the chaos about to erupt and getting some distance from it all. Only the lone and has-been sect leader remained, who would soon be taken in by the labor office's experts. Having defected from his cause, Fiend Yang slumped to the ground. Wu Yue, your brother has even given you the chance to resolve this, but you're too stubborn. Now that there are no holds barred, I can't save you. You're on your own. Just as they were about to clash, a blue light covered everyone. They all started shouting. This is Vicissitude Domain. Impermanence 5! An aged voice echoed out. Stop this instant! Shaking, they turned around to see a weary figure making his way towards them with a hard look. Elder Yuan? Xuan muttered. Venerable Sure frowned. Who is he? I've never seen him before. Venerable Sure, he is the labor office's executive. He's always been behind Xuan, using his fame to lord over others. One inner disciple reported. The inner elder then flashed in Elder Yuan's face. You old laborer, since when you could just interfere in sect matters? Get lost. Ha ha ha, I don't want to interfere, but one should look after himself. Maybe in a few days, using revenge for the sect leader and rebuilding the sect, you'd bring outsiders in, dooming it instead. I'd like to live here for many more years. So I have to interfere. Elder Yuan spoke in a condescending tone. The elder's face flushed red after Elder Yuan exposed their plan. He roared in anger. This is between the experts of the sect, not some wretched old coot. He then raised his palm for an attack. It was backed by the power of a third-layer ethereal stage cultivation. Elder Yuan would be reduced to mush as a bone-tempering cultivator. That was if he was so weak. Chapter 762, High Venerable Yuan Xinggang. Chapter 762, High Venerable Yuan Xinggang. Proofreader Papatonks. Who? Biting winds came upon Elder Yuan's frail body, fluttering his beard. Even so, he just stood there with an indifferent gaze. It was as if he was not attacked by an ethereal stage expert, but by a breeze. Venerable Sure squinted, watching filled with suspicion. Since Elder Yuan faced the ethereal stage expert with such poise, Venerable Sure could tell he wasn't average. The odd thing was, when did the sect have someone like him? Xuan watched with no intent of helping. He knew Elder Yuan was something else, maybe one that could hold down all of Demon Scheming Sect. He was about to kill off the Demon Scheming Sect's leader, thus forcing Elder Yuan to come out. Rather than ignore him for later, it was better to face this trouble. Humph, a lowly laborer should stick to his duty and not meddle in others' affairs. The savage palm reached Elder Yuan as the elder mocked. The last time I asked you for a few laborers for my training, you came up with all sorts of excuses and even put the labor office venerables on me. Filthy parasite, using others' power, you should stick to your errands. Now no one can save you, ha ha ha. The people figured it out. This elder had some bad blood with Elder Yuan. No wonder he would lower himself to kill someone so weak. Since the labor office gained power, he couldn't touch him. Now that the inner sect oldies saw sect leader about to lose, they decided to flee. Yet this old thing came out and exposed their nasty plans. Elder Yuan was respected because of Xuan, when the labor office's elders never actually gave him a second thought. Since Xuan now stood still while he was in danger, the others of course would not interfere either. The elder saw this and grew more rampant. Elder Yuan simply chuckled despite it all. Funny you should mention duty. With the sect on the brink of civil war, you don't care about settling the party's clashes, but pursue your vendetta. Is this how you plan on carrying out your duties when you seize power? Ha ha ha, never mind, my sect does not need an elder like you. Elder Yuan's eyes widened. Bam! With a thunderous sound, the elder found himself flying, losing his life before he hit the ground. Plop. He showed no wound as he landed, nor was there blood spilled. He died as if from natural causes. The only way for that to happen was through one means only. Soul impact. Venerable Sure's eyes shook, his face a mask of shock as he watched Elder Yuan and stammered. Who the hell are you? SSS. The others gasped, looking at Elder Yuan with unprecedented amazement. Soul impact was a perk all ethereal stage cultivators had. It meant using one's soul power to destroy the other's spirit and soul. But this usually only worked against cultivators below the ethereal stage. Using it in the same stage, since both had formed their souls, would never actually kill the other, at most just heavily injure him. Yet now, an ethereal stage expert died from a soul impact before everyone. The fact the other did not reveal his soul to do that only proved how huge the gap in. None thought this unknown elder would be such a great expert, stronger than most people here. Even Xuan's eyelids shook, sweat gathering on his brow. Venerable Qi, get ready to have young Sanzi come in. Unsure yet on what stance Elder Yuan took, Xuan would rather play it safe and call for young Sanzi. Venerable Qi nodded, feeling the same way. He sent some elders messages to open the barrier. Tap. Elder Yuan took casual steps under the eyes of everyone. Now no one looked at him with scorn, but fear. Finally, Elder Yuan arrived between the two sides. Xiaoyu eyed Elder Yuan, then bent his waist in greeting. High Venerable! He's the High Venerable? Venerable Sure and his party shook and stared at Elder Yuan. No wonder. Only the rumored High Venerable could display such power. I should have known. Xuan's eyelid twitched. Although shocked, he had his guesses. The rest of the crowd stood speechless at Elder Yuan's casual demeanor. They were just dumbstruck. Demon Scheming Sect's best expert, the rumored High Venerable, was revealed at last. Now that they knew this Venerable was Elder Yuan from the Labor Office, the shock doubled. Yes, I'm Demon Scheming Sect's High Venerable, Yuan Xinggang. Seeing the dumb looks around, Elder Yuan shouted. Everyone bowed. Greetings, High Venerable. Not just the inner sect faction, but even the Labor Office elders. High Venerable, even rumored, was the basis of their pride, their confidence. Because he was the strongest in the Demon Scheming Sect. Seeing him now, even rebels as they were, they still showed respect. Elder Yuan nodded. Labor Office plans a rebellion, while the inner sect elders want to run away, thus leaving sect leader all alone to be killed. Humph, how did Demon Scheming Sect become so chaotic and torn apart? High Venerable, Xuan is undermining my authority. He roused Labor Office's men to rebel. He must be executed for his crimes. Xiaoyu clenched his fist as he pointed at Xuan. Venerable Sure found that with the High Venerable here, the tables had turned, and cupped his hands. High Venerable can see that we hold the sect's safety at heart. Please tell us what to do, High Venerable. In layman's terms, Xuan wants to rebel, so as a High Venerable, stomp him. With you on our side, we can do it. Once they're dead, Demon Scheming Sect will be ours again, hee hee hee. Elder Yuan already knew their intent and smiled, then turned to Xuan. Elder Yuan, where do you stand? Xuan spoke before he could. If Sir sides with Xiaoyu and them, then our friendship is over. Cocky bastard! Everyone stood stunned. He truly is worthy to be our next sect leader. Facing the sect's best expert, he uses such blunt words. Though they all knew that Xuan talked big like this was because he had a backup, his monstrous son. Not even High Venerable can take a hit from that brat. They held High Venerable in respect, but they weren't blinded by it, clear of his strength, and theirs it was something Venerable Sure's side had no clue about, still sneering at them. Xuan, you dare think with higher numbers you can take the seat of sect leader? What do you take High Venerable for? He would not let your impudent act go unpunished. Shut your mouth. I speak for myself, not you. Elder Yuan glared at him. Venerable Sure, you've caused a lot of disturbances over the years. Wait there in silence. Ugh! Startled, Venerable Sure's fiery passion was snuffed out by Elder Yuan being a wet blanket. He lowered his head and withdrew, his heart filled with anger. Damn old coot, I'm not the rebel here. What are you doing coming at me for? Ignoring his displeasure, Elder Yuan turned to Xuan with a smile. Steward Xue, we're both friends here. For God's sake, I was the one who told you to get that wife of yours. What, now you're going to burn bridges? Xuan faltered at the sudden casual attitude the great High Venerable still took. Being ridiculed like that, Xuan blushed in embarrassment. Despite that, he felt happy inside at the very least, even as the High Venerable. This old man was the same as ever, the elder Yuan he expounded on Tao with for all these years. Now let's talk. It's not something that can't be resolved with words. There's no need to always go around fighting and killing. Demon scheming Sect didn't hold your woman either. Come with me. Smiling, Elder Yuan walked towards the main hall, then stopped as he pointed at Qilin and Shaoyu. You two as well, come along. Since it involves 3 people, only you 3 can solve this. High Venerable then entered the main hall. Chapter 763, A Sect Leader. Chapter 763, A Sect Leader. Proofreader Papatonks. Humph! Xiaoyu glared at Xuan with hatred. It never occurred to him that in Xuan's short 5 years' stay at Demon Scheming Sect, his foundation of centuries would be shaken up and he would be on the brink of being overthrown, looking at the labor office's elders wishing he was dragged down from his perch. Xiaoyu's anger boiled with no outlet. No one was on his side. Venerable sure saw his state, and was set on forsaking him. His only hope lay on High Venerable's support, so, after giving everyone present one last glare, Xiaoyu stomped his way into the main hall. Steward Xue, High Venerable can't be after the leader in this, right? If anything happens to Sir, we'll be left helpless and weak. Giving the main hall a long look, Venerable Qi spoke. What if we send 20 experts along? At least this way we can cope with anything. Xuan remained silent, and in thought. Venerable sure saw this and mocked. Xuan, you went and started an uprising, but you're too scared to talk with High Venerable? How is a cowardly rat worthy of being sect leader? Ha ha ha, Venerable sure, spare me your goading. High Venerable is strong, but I'm no pushover. I'm not his match, but not even he can keep me from leaving. Grinning, Xuan chuckled and held Xing's hand. Are you scared now that you're in danger because of me? What's so dangerous about seeing an old friend? Qing raised an eyebrow. Xuan laughed. Ha ha, you're my lady indeed, braver than most men. Then let us go see High Venerable. No matter what side he's on, I'll always protect you. Qing nodded and gave back a radiant smile. The two went into the main hall hand in hand. Steward Xue, are you really going without help? Venerable Qi was still unsettled. Xuan merely flicked his hand. Leave it. It won't make much of a difference, not with High Venerable's strength. They'll only get killed. It will actually have the opposite effect, inviting ridicule at the two of us bravery. Ha ha ha. Xuan laughed, and then vanished inside the main hall. The crowd praised him for his decisiveness. Steward Xue and Lady Chu are a perfect couple. Both of them are so brave. High Venerable and Steward Xue had been close so far, but who could tell what High Venerable would do now that Demon Scheming Sect's highest seat was on the line? He might follow the rules and stick with Xiaoyu. Venerable Qi and Bai shared a look of worry. Venerable sure snickered and grinned. Bam! With a resounding noise, the main hall's doors shut tight, holding Xuan, Xiaoyu and Qing inside. Everyone cried, Steward Xue. Elder Yuan's powerful voice echoed out before they did anything. Impermanence 5, any that dares start anything, they are to be put down. Yes, sir. An aged voice came from the air, then the green barrier glowed brighter. Shaken up, everyone sighed and stood still. They knew inside the vicissitude domain they were nothing more than lambs to the slaughter. Venerable Qi, Bai and sure, anyone in fact, had no choice but to sit tight and not stir anything up, but both sides had the same thought. High Venerable is as amazing as they say, no less than Xiaoyu and Xuan. With just the 5 elders, he had the hundreds of experts tied up and at his whim. Meanwhile, the couple had just entered the main hall and jumped from the banging of the door. They didn't look back though. They saw 3 seats in the main hall. Xiaoyu already took the highest one, with an ashen face and spiteful eyes. When he saw Xuan, his thirst for blood only grew at the side. They saw a shut door as the two walked to the seats. Before they got to take them, Elder Yuan's voice came from beyond the door. Xuan, you two come in first. The two nodded and entered the room, leaving Xiaoyu alone to stew in his anger on his throne. His nails dug so deep in his palm that they left marks. Elder Yuan. Xuan saw him sitting cross-legged on a praying mat, and the couple cupped their hands. Elder Yuan smiled and nodded, then he pointed at 2 mats. Please sit. Xuan had no reservation, taking Chu Qingqing to the mats. Elder Yuan, why have you called us here? Is this miss your trial of love? Aren't you going to introduce her? Glossing over the question, Elder Yuan looked at Chu Qingqing getting up. Chu Qingqing spoke with respect as she greeted. I am Chu Qingqing, High Venerable. Ha ha ha, so you're Chu Qingqing. Elder Yuan's eyes flashed, sizing her up then nodding. He turned to Xuan. With both smarts and looks, Chu sure is attractive. Kid, if I was just 5 centuries young, I'd have underestimated you. Ugh! Xuan shook his head. Elder Yuan, there are hundreds of experts standing outside, with tens of thousands more waiting restlessly. Can't you be more serious? Ha ha ha, you knew war could spark at any second, yet you still brought back an army to revolt? Elder Yuan mocked. Xuan shrugged. What was I supposed to do? I have to save my hide. You know how petty Shaoyu is. And even if he wasn't, any leader would not overlook such crass transgression. The only choice was for a preemptive strike. No matter what became of the demon scheming sect, as long as the 2 of us were safe was enough. Humph, a mistake remains a mistake unless you remedy it. Elder Yuan forced a smile. So you really don't care at all about the demon scheming sect? Is it fine to destroy it? You know what will happen if civil war breaks out. The heavy losses afterward won't be something sacred stones can patch up. Our very foundation will be ruined. Xuan was blunt. Don't care. Ugh! That went right to Elder Yuan's heart, but then he turned to her. Lady Chu, you're from a righteous sect. You shouldn't want total destruction to happen, do you? You know what your man is about to do, can't you? Don't care. Chu Qingqing shook her head, looking deeply at Xuan with a smile. It doesn't matter what he does as long as he's safe. Shaking all over, Elder Yuan chuckled. Lass, you're harming him, driving him further into the abyss. You 2 best be careful, regardless of being a righteous or demonic cultivator. Whoever gets swallowed by the pit of desire will have no chance of waking up. Coming back from such an ordeal is nigh impossible. Don't care. The both of them replied, yet they held each other's hands tighter. Elder Yuan's eyes shone, then his face shifted, shouting. You don't, but I do care. Demon scheming sect is where I shall pass away. Just like Xuan cares for the Luo clan, the same is for me with the sect. No matter what, I can't let anything cruel happen to it. So, Elder Yuan's eyes were now sharp as he watched Xuan, planning an attack. Elder Yuan? Xuan and Chu Qingqing tensed, planning their own escape. Xuan's right eye was already shining golden. He had shift ready to activate at a moment's notice. Xuan, don't blame me for being unreasonable. Elder Yuan squinted and took out a pitch-black jade. Xuan cried out inside. He rushed to pull Chu Qingqing away from it. He had no clue what it was, but it had to be some deadly demonic treasure with High Venerable's power, and the demonic treasure, he must crush Xuan where he stood. Or if he fled, there was no chance of catching him. Sweating, Xuan gnashed his teeth, not expecting this old man to break their friendship like this. Taking out a demonic treasure to end him just like that. However, seeing his panicky look, Elder Yuan looked dumbstruck. What are you doing? That's my line, you old coot. What are you taking a demonic treasure out for? Xuan shouted, his nerves stretched taut. Glancing at the jade, Elder Yuan chuckled. Xuan, aren't you always daring? Why so paranoid all of a sudden? This isn't paranoia, but a matter of strength gap. With your strength, taking out a demonic treasure on top, if I don't hide, how am I to survive? Elder Yuan shook his head, holding the jade out. Xuan, look closer. This isn't a demonic treasure, but the seal of demon scheming sect's High Venerable. In my capacity as the High Venerable, I shall replace Shaoyu with you as the next sect leader. Chapter 764, True Self-Art. Chapter 764, True Self-Art. Proofreader Papatonks. Come again? Taken aback, Xuan looked at him stunned. What did I just hear? You want to replace Xiaoyu? What kind of high venerable are you? In the Sect's time of inner turmoil, you're not only not helping Sect leaders stop it, but even want to replace him. What do you think rules even are? That's rich, hearing about rules from you. Elder Yuan rolled his eyes, but then he found something off and raised an eyebrow. Xuan, what's going on? Weren't you planning an uprising? Why criticize me for not following the Sect rules? You're the one who started this whole mess. Ugh. Xuan scratched his nose and nodded. True, but so what? My stance is clear, but Elder Yuan, as the Sect's High Venerable, your standing made me doubt your intentions. Ha ha ha, I get it now. Elder Yuan laughed. Fine, since you think that as a High Venerable I had to crush you, why then were you willing to meet me alone? Weren't you scared I'd take you out to end all the trouble? Xuan's face hardened. Elder Yuan, I did think about it, and even knew the chances were high for such an outcome. But I still wished to believe that our friendship meant something and you'd have another way. What other way do you think I had? Go on, tell me. Elder Yuan's eyes shone. Xuan stared into Elder Yuan's eyes as he probed. With your status as High Venerable, you can just resolve the conflict by revealing everything. At worst, I'll be cast out, ending all trouble. In your dreams. Elder Yuan scoffed and shouted. Kid, you're truly despicable. Everything is because of you and now you want to wipe your hands off of this? What about all the elders and venerables who have your back till death? Is this how you treat them? Xuan's heart sank and shook his head. I just knew something like this can't fool Elder Yuan. Pointing at the door, Elder Yuan said in a cold tone. If it weren't for this, they'd all carry their duty, working for the betterment of the Sect. But you dragged them to a war with mystical heaven Sect and sullied them. Hell, it's not a stretch to call them yours now. Then you stirred in them their rebellious side, saying they'll die otherwise and making them sink into their desires. Now that they have this thinking, you think it'll be that easy to get them to stand down with mere words? To top it all off, they plan on having their leader get power so they would get some as well. You saw how they reacted when Xinggang tried to so hard to smooth things over. They're dead set on fighting, their hearts in turmoil. This is no longer a matter of Xiaoyu and you coming to a peaceful resolution, but about that mob wanting to get everything they wish for, more power. They want to elevate themselves through your high position. You know this as well. I could step in and mediate it, stopping the fighting, but it will only delay things. First there's Xiaoyu's pettiness who won't stand them for long, and then there's the labor office's elders and venerables who I bet can't sit still for even a couple of days before chaos ensues again. At that point you'd be thousands of miles away, leaving demon scheming Sect to kill itself on the inside. Was that your plan, Xuan? Xuan's heart sank but did not reply. He turned to Qingqing and sent her a message. Qingqing, how come he's such a relic yet not one bit like a senile old coot should be? He's trying to tie us down. Demon scheming Sect's High Venerable is impressive indeed, like the rumors paint him. But is it true? Did you know all about what he just said? Qingqing nodded and raised an eyebrow as she sent her reply. Xuan nodded. Close enough, every Sect in Western lands is twisted and filled with secrets. I wanted to take you to a safe place to live our lives. I even tried using Xinggang's chance he created to get over this mess and just withdraw. How was I supposed to know Venerable Bai and the rest had a severe change of heart, dead set on wanting a coup and becoming the next ministers? Their desires were fanned even more with Xiaoyu's anger. So you can imagine that when I leave the Sect, Xiaoyu and the labor office will be at odds, devolving into mutual annihilation like Elder Yuan said. That's the same as lighting the fuse and scampering off. Isn't that unethical? Why should I care? I only used them to save you. Now that you're safe, they can drown the place in blood for all I care as long as we're miles away. Brute, you're just too evil. Even after all they did to help you. Glaring hard at Xuan, Qingqing cursed him, but she was smiling as she said it. Elder Yuan sat there with a twitching mouth. Hello, I'm talking to you. So stop with the whispering. Have a little respect for an old man. Oh, Elder Yuan, but making me sect leader won't be against the rules. Besides, not everyone wants me on the chair. Won't a fight broke out either way? Xuan shook at Elder Yuan's words, then cupped his hands as he spoke. Elder Yuan gave a vague smile. This is where you're wrong. With you at the helm, there'll be no more fighting. First of all, more than half of the elders follow your every command. Becoming sect leader is what they want. As for Venerable, sure, ha ha ha, he's just a stubborn opportunist. He only cares for himself. He doesn't care who among the two of you is the sect leader, and would even less fight to the death for Shaoyu. The fact he wanted to bolt proved it. He just wants to save his strength. A guy like that in the sect would find the power of being a minister after they push you on your seat to be a good choice as well. Since you already beat Tianyu's imperial faction and brought peace to the nation, you're quite the expert in ruling. Elder Yuan, it's not about ruling here, but Xinggang and I. Xuan wanted to object, but Elder Yuan raised his hand to stop him. You caused this mess, you fix it. You crushed people's view of Shaoyu, forcing him to be confrontational and unable to maintain his position. Once you leave again, the demon scheming sect will be divided. You can't go. You're to blame for Xiaoyu's eroded power, and now must take responsibility. Xuan sighed and nodded. As for the sect rules, ha ha ha, weren't you asking me of my stance? I'll tell you. I am on demon scheming sect's bright future. Some stiff old rules mean nothing. As long as it favors the sect, any rule can be scratched out. Fraternizing is no exception. Elder Yuan looked hard at Xuan, then his eyes glimmered. Xuan, I know you don't care about the sect, not even about the labor office, but I just heard you call yourself demon scheming sect disciple, that the sect is your home. I know it was only an excuse, that you still can't wait to leave. But this old man hopes that the next time you say it, it will be from your heart. Shaking, Xuan spoke. I have never considered any place my home, unless it has people I care about. That's human nature. Elder Yuan chuckled and nodded. In any case, you can't escape becoming sect leader. You can go now. Xuan nodded and took Xinggang out after bowing at Elder Yuan. The old man then stopped them before reaching the door. Wait. What is it, Elder Yuan? Xuan looked back. Elder Yuan's hand flashed and took out a jade slip, throwing it to Xuan. Xuan looked puzzled. Elder Yuan sighed. This contains an art I came to discover after all my insights into the heart over the years. To someone like you who aspires towards Tao, it will be beneficial. True self-art? Elder Yuan nodded. Yes, the true self-art. A human comes from primal chaos, and being true, he never masked his emotions. But as the years came and went, this truth became blurry. However, cultivators, both demonic and righteous, all must return to Tao to find their true natures. But this new truth, does it form a cycle with the true nature from inception, or is it enlightenment? If it's a cycle, why then do cultivators train for years and years, only to return to their true selves? I never managed to find an answer no matter how I looked. That's how I discovered this art. It's not an amazing cultivation method, but it can help a cultivator achieve peace of mind and remove a heart demon's interference. Remove a demon heart's interference? Xuan was shocked inside, gripping the jade slip with a shaking hand. Cultivators dreaded heart demons. The lightest halted one's progress while the serious ones were damning. With this art was a gem, able to avoid all of that. He never would have guessed Elder Yuan, a mortal domain cultivator, would have such deep insight. It went to show that one can achieve greatness regardless of what path they took. The old man isn't as strong as the ancient emperors, but a true wise man of life. Xuan held Elder Yuan in even more regard. Chapter 765 Master. Chapter 765 Master. Proofreader Papatonks. Self returning to origin. With a kind smile, Elder Yuan pointed at himself. Xuan, do you see how my cultivation is in the bone tempering stage? This is not me trying to feign weakness, but my true cultivation. It's all due to cultivating the true self-art. Xuan and Xinggang shared a look of shock. Elder Yuan can kill an ethereal stage expert with a snap of his fingers, but he's just a bone-tempering cultivator. Did the true self-art sap his cultivation? Elder Yuan could see their doubts and explained. True self-art is a heart cultivation method. Its effect is shown by regressing your cultivation, or rather returning you to your true self. While you drop cultivation stages, power rises as cultivation is returned to origin, just like the pure and innocent child you once were. While the power would reach unfathomable heights as if a reawakening occurred. This level is something I can't fathom, to the point I won't dare even imagine what would happen next. Would power and cultivation combine, returning to origin, or would it bring about a new level? With my meager cultivation, I am unable to see it. I only hope that someone will be able to reach that far and prove I am right. Another incomparable path that no one had proved yet. Tightening the jade slip in his grip, Xuan's eyes shook. Power grew while cultivation dropped. It not once crossed his mind something like this was possible. Just like Elder Yuan said, once cultivation reaches the origin and power rises to the Emperor stage, what would come after? What will happen once you cross the point where cultivation can't regress anymore, when power can't grow? Will it be a whole new path of cultivation, or turn to dust, becoming a part of the primal chaos? He did not know, but for some reason, his heart throbbed in excitement. Despite the deadly risks, this was a challenge worthy of him trying. Xuan, you're a man that focuses on Tao and does not pursue strength as the end goal. I give true self-art to you in hopes that you can help me find the answer. Looking Xuan in the eye, Elder Yuan spoke with a far-gone gaze. I planned on imparting this art I came to realize to my disciple, but he just strays further and further from Tao, unable to commit to the true self-art. Without insight into Tao, regressing cultivation and increasing power to reach origin will be hard. It would only be wasted on him. Master! Elder Yuan did not finish as a familiar voice echoed, shaking all over. He turned to Xuan to find him kneeling and tapping his head on the ground 3 times as he shouted. Thank you, Master, for your heritage. I will live up to your expectations. Startled, Elder Yuan was unable to react, letting Chu Qingqing to giggle. Master, Xuan has never owed anyone favors. When he receives something from someone, he has to pay it back. Since he pays respects to you as his master, it shows just how important this art is to him. So much so he didn't know how to repay you other than bow to you and take you as master. Master, didn't you ask me if I saw the demon-scheming sect as my home? Now I can say with clear conscience that as long as Master is at the demon-scheming sect, this sect is my home. I promise. Raising his head, Xuan's forehead had blood on it. Elder Yuan gave Xuan a dumbfounded look, needing much time to come back to his senses. He nodded. Very good, giving you this art is like passing on to my disciple. I now have no regrets. Xuan, you're pursuing Tao, no matter how sharp your senses are compared to mine, you have to ponder this art to a minute detail. I shall await the day you unravel it. You're too kind, Master. Xuan smiled. But with such a great gift from Master, I just don't know what I could give in return. I am so ashamed. Ha ha ha, you're just like your lady said. Bowing once more, Xuan gave Elder Yuan a deep look, then pulled Chu Qingqing outside the room. Seeing the two leave, Elder Yuan smiled with tears welling in his eyes. He finally got to pass on his knowledge. Creak. In the main hall, Xuan and Chu Qingqing coming out were met with Xiaoyu's burning gaze. Why did they come out alive? High Venerable did not use this chance to kill them? Wuyue, come in! Elder Yuan's voice resounded and Xiaoyu stood up. He brushed past them, sending a glare at them before huffing as he went in. Elder Yuan, who was still sitting on his prayer mat, gestured. Sit! High Venerable, why didn't you kill them? As long as Xuan dies, the others will become a headless rabble. And with the inner sect faction, we'll crush them! Gnashing his teeth, Xiaoyu's eyes saw red. Those damn geezers dared to stand with that lowly Xuan against me? They must have a death wish. Looking at his angry stance with a cold look, Elder Yuan's eyelids shook, taking a deep breath. Wuyue. What? High Venerable, please tell me what we should do. Stand down. Elder Yuan spoke deeply, making Xiaoyu shudder. What did you say? I'm telling you to stand down as a sect leader. Why? Xiaoyu erupted, shooting to his feet. I'm the great sect leader of the demon scheming sect. I have worked for its betterment for centuries. Especially now, thanks to my thoughtful planning, the demon scheming sect has become a middle three sect, something never before achieved in thousands of years. Why the hell should I step down now? Xuan, he's the one who broke the sect rules. He and his band of criminals have started an uprising. Elder Yuan eyed him coldly. What do you want then? To kill? Xiaoyu roared. These geezers wanted to overthrow me. They deserve death. You need to think about the consequences. What are you afraid of? With 10,000 sacred stones, in 100 years, we'll get all the elders and venerables we need. Xiaoyu showed a vicious smile. Elder Yuan sighed. Wuyue, do you know how much demon scheming sect would lose because of this? We can regain elders and venerables, but we will lose our thousands of years old heritage. Every generation of elders and venerables were every sect's generation of masters raised from disciples, loyal to the sect more than anything else. This is something no amount of sacred stones raised elders can replace. Once tradition is broken, the sect itself will fall. High Venerable, you're being paranoid. All that matters is that we have iron rules. It doesn't matter if they don't listen, he. Ha, Wuyue, you're still like this. Seeing Xiaoyu's crazed look, Elder Yuan shook his head. Do you know why Xuan managed to stir so many people into rising against you? It's because you are never sensible in your matters, you're self-centered and out of control. They fear you, and you think it's because of your status, but once you turn your back, they will come at you with a blade. Before Xuan struck Mystical Heaven Sect, the reason he was so sure these people would be with him in the uprising even after he told them of impersonating you, was because their fear of you runs deep in their hearts. This fear, in turn, became resentment, and they lashed out. Since they'd die whether they came back or rebelling, why not fight to the last and take you down with them? Xuan knew this very well. That's why he faked your order to attack Mystical Heaven Sect. All that matters was that he tied everyone's fate together. Clenching his fist, Xiaoyu gnashed his teeth. Curse that Xuan. He's been scheming against me. I shouldn't have let him leave. Wuyue, the people had turned your back on you. The moment is lost. Just let it go. Elder Yuan sighed. If I knew this day would come, you should have learned from Xuan's way of leading people. You should have known he has no feeling for the sect, much less for anyone in it. Even so, he manages to get everyone who follows him to believe in him. I believe he is far more suited than you to be a sect leader. Xiaoyu's face twitched, having already lost himself to rage, having heard nothing and just cursed. Curses, I brought the wolf into my home. I let him undermine me. Wuyue! Elder Yuan shouted and sighed. You need to step down regardless. If you don't want to do it, then you'd give me no choice. I'll have to use my right as High Venerable and cripple you. That will only make it worse for you. Xiaoyu shook, looking at Elder Yuan in disbelief. And no way, High Venerable. Are you going to cripple me over a brat? Elder Yuan closed his eyes, unable to hold back the tears. When he opened them again, he made up his mind as he stood. Sect leader Xie, come with me. I shall declare this to everyone and settle this now. Wait, you can't do this. You made me a sect leader. That was before. Elder Yuan halted. With Xuan's uprising, then your declaration of crippling the sect leader will make you look afraid of Xuan. What will the sect think of their greatest expert? Doesn't matter. What does my name amount to when the future of the sect is at stake? Elder Yuan's face hardened as he walked. Xiaoyu stared at the old man and shouted. Master! Ugh! Faltering, Elder Yuan stopped again and closed his eyes. Chapter 766, Grand Wedding? Chapter 766, Grand Wedding? Proofreader Papatonks. Wuyue! Taking a deep breath, Elder Yuan sighed. Ever since you took your seat as sect leader, I have not once heard you address me as master. Xiaoyu's eyes shook, nodding. Because Master once said that the ruler of a sect drives the entire sect, wielding absolute power above anyone else's. I could only keep the word Master in my heart and never utter it. After that day, the demon scheming sect only had sect leaders Xian and High Venerable Yuan Xinggang. Nothing more, nothing less. There's no other meaning to it. Do you still remember my teaching? Then you should know that when the bigger picture is involved, I don't make decisions based on feelings. Elder Yuan let out a long breath, then walked as he said. Step down, taking a leisure venerable office. Xuan won't go as far as kill for my sake. It's great that I also have the true self-art I mentioned once, and can help you to understand it with the time you'll have. Being so high in status for so long, you've let your emotions control you. Stepping down and pondering on Tao might be the best thing for you. Xiaoyu's face twitched. He clenched his fists and gnashed his teeth. Master, are you that heartless? Would you rather get an outsider on my seat than help me keep it? It's not a matter of wanting, it's that Providence made it so I can't. Humph, Providence? Xiaoyu flicked his sleeve as he roared. You just think Xuan has those geezers under his thumb and now you don't want to see the sect suffer. But have you ever thought that without rules there's only chaos? If demon scheming sect leader can be taken so easily, what's the point of sect rules? How will the sect be ruled later? Won't it be a mess? Elder Yuan turned around to look into Xiaoyu's crazed eyes and chuckled. You really need to step down. As far as we know, if you get public support, you can have the world. It doesn't matter if it's done by lying or stealing. The important thing is to understand it. Do you know why I was content with staying at the labor office for the past centuries? It wasn't just for peace of mind, it was because that was the closest place to true human nature, where the public's will was most obvious. You've been standing above everyone for too long, you've already gone blind to it. You need to step down and ponder on the true Tao. Humph, ponder what? Tao what? Who doesn't know that in this world power is everything? What good will having Tao in your mind do to make me stronger? Nothing. Stomping, Xiaoyu glared as he cursed. High Venerable, you've been around those stinking laborers for too long and became weak. You're no longer the best expert in the demon scheming sect who held supreme power. A mere Xuan got a bunch of ninnies to take arms and already got you scared. Now you come to me to step down and learn some weird true self-art? Humph, Master, to be honest, I never gave a damn about that art. What other use is there to it than to look weaker? I am the great sect leader of the demon scheming sect. I need to show them all my strength and get their respect. I'm not like you, always with your nose down. Xiaoyu's yelling shook Elder Yuan to the core. He was in pain as his withered white hair blew with every outburst from Xiaoyu. Elder Yuan did not react. He was just extremely disappointed in his disciple he helped so many years. I now see I shouldn't have given the true self-art to you. You can't see its value and just throw it away like junk. Thank God there's still Xuan. Elder Yuan closed his eyes and turned around. As he opened them again, gone was the pain and sadness, replaced by resolve and force as he spoke. Let's go out together. I've already drawn out a reason for your stepping down. Elder Yuan stepped towards the door once more, with conviction. Master, you can't do this! I'm your only disciple. Bam! Elder Yuan shut the door as Xiaoyu wailed behind him without remorse, leaving him all alone. Master, are you that heartless? Xiaoyu's eyes shook, and he closed them. He gnashed his teeth and dug his nails into his palms in anger. How the hell is that punk so much better than me that even my own master would forsake me? Letting out a long breath, Xiaoyu's eyes shone with bloodlust. Meanwhile, Elder Yuan looked calm, but his heart was filled with pain and sorrow. His disciple who used to care so much about the sect just like him was now trapped in a deep whirlpool, offering the old man only disappointment and regret. Xuan stood up and bowed. Master! You're about to be sect leader. It's best if you call me High Venerable. In the demon scheming sect, status must be clearly defined in private and public, and not let emotion interfere with it. Elder Yuan chuckled, preaching as he did back then with Xiaoyu. Xuan raised an eyebrow and said, Master is mistaken. Status must be upheld, But now I'm not fulfilling my duty as the sect leader. Since I see you as my master, before you is your disciple. And it's only natural for a disciple to show respect to his master. Startled, Elder Yuan gave him a long look, then sighed. I see it now, private is private while public is public. When there was primal chaos, heaven and earth were one, but as the yin and yang separated, so did the two. That means private and public are interchangeable. How foolish of me. Pushing him towards power and not giving him any friendship had made him turn out like this. It's all my fault. Master, what do you mean? Xuan was stunned. Elder Yuan chuckled and shook his head. Nothing, I just have one request. Xiaoyu would come out and maybe he'll step down. For the safety of the sect, he mustn't get involved with more people. While a newly ascended emperor makes bold policies and snuffs out his remaining rivals, the demon-scheming sect is small and won't survive such a purge. Oh, sure. Since Master asked, I of course won't deny High Venerable's suggestion. At worst, I'll just be thrown off my seat and will have to just leave. I don't care much for it anyway, ha ha ha. Xuan nodded and laughed as he looked at Chu Qingqing. She nodded, not minding it at all. Elder Yuan gave a heartfelt nod, but had a bitter smile inside. Xuan said that he'll consider the demon-scheming sect as his home with me here, but in the end he doesn't see it like that. Or else he wouldn't disregard being a sect leader so much. Just what can I do to make him see the sect as his home? I have to settle this or the kid will just run off. Creak. A door opened and Xiaoyu came out with a dark face. He still had a foul look when he saw Xuan, but he was no longer crazed. Elder Yuan spoke. Well? Have you decided? Yeah. Totally unwilling to do this, Xiaoyu still gave a nod, letting out a deep breath. Elder Yuan ignored him as he spoke to the couple. You three follow me. It's time we settle this. Elder Yuan was the first to walk ahead. Xuan, Chu Qingqing and Xiaoyu were right behind him. Rumble. With a heavy sound, the main hall's doors opened. The crowd outside quickly turned their heads around. Venerable Bai's side had been tense all this time. Would Steward Xue get killed? How were they to carry out the uprising then? Fortune had it that they soon saw Xuan and Chu Qingqing coming out and let out a relieved breath. The eyes turned to Elder Yuan, waiting for him to explain what had transpired inside. Knowing their desires, Elder Yuan coughed before shouting. Demon-scheming sect, listen up! In view of demon-scheming sect disciple, Xuan's exceptional conduct and remarkable achievement at Double Dragon Gathering in fighting for our sect's honor, of the glorious win he had gotten by leading the sect's experts and defeating Mystical Heaven Sect, after thorough deliberating with the sect leader decided to step down, letting Xuan take his place. Please look forward to the ceremony being held tomorrow. Come again? Everyone went slack-jawed. Venerable Sure and the labor office's oldies were all standing there incredulously at what they heard. High Venerable forced sect leader to step down so Xuan would go up. With Xiaoyu's vile temper, they could guess he would never accept this, unless High Venerable gave him no choice. They all looked at Elder Yuan in shock and puzzlement. They all knew the relationship between High Venerable and sect leader, but no one thought he'd side with Xuan. Still, there was no attempt at crushing the uprising, nor stalling the situation. He helped them instead. This decision was beyond perplexing. Not even Venerable Sure could make sense of it. Wuyue. High Venerable looked at Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu gnashed his teeth and stepped forward, forced to do this against his will. The sect leader is someone of ability. Xuan's merits are unprecedented, and I shall step down, offering my last meager help for the sect's bright future. Xiaoyu said that last part like he was choking. It was utterly humiliating for a proud man like him to say that he was beneath a disciple. Elder Yuan chuckled and turned to the people. Tomorrow, the sect leader succession ceremony shall take place along with one more happy event. We will hold for our brand new sect leader a grand wedding, to celebrate the union between sect leader and his lady. Ugh! Everyone faltered. Chapter 767, Shifting Winds. Chapter 767, Shifting Winds. Proofreader Papatonks. A wedding? The crowd looked at High Venerable in disbelief. Even the lucky couple was stunned at his declaration. The last they heard, demonic cultivators were supposed to be cruel and emotionless. So how did it turn into a public wedding? Marriage was a promise between a man and a woman, one of love. It wasn't the same as a fling. Was this really fine, breaking a thousands of years old rule? Even if it was done by the High Venerable and the next sect leader. High Venerable, sect leader stepping down for the good of the sect is an act of virtue, to be remembered through the ages. But for the new sect leader to break sect rules in such a grand fashion the very first day he took seat, Venerable sure took it upon himself, as the defender of the demonic path, to be a buzzkill. Xuan, you might have one, but don't get too cocky. You can't treat sect rules as nothing. What wedding? You're clearly dishonoring the demon scheming sect. We can turn a blind eye to having a woman, so go have your fun. But now you want to make an issue out of it? This is a blatant disregard to all of us. At this time, Venerable Bai and the rest, having Xuan's back, should have stepped in, but even they found this to be a taboo. They were just stuck as to what to say. Giving Venerable Sure a cold look, Elder Yuan said to Xuan, "See, these geezers are against your wedding and don't care who's the sect leader. I told you so." "You're right, but isn't this a bit too outrageous? This is about breaking a thousands of years old rule just as I take my seat. Look, even Venerable Bai isn't saying anything. We're still demonic cultivators. Don't tell me you don't want to hold a grand wedding with Miss Chu." Elder Yuan rose, an eyebrow turning to Chu Qingqing. Xuan had a bitter smile. "I'm a demonic cultivator and know its taboos. While I might be an exception, I still can't break every demonic cultivator." "Not quite, Xuan. Don't you recall what I told you? The condition for a demonic cultivator to be in love." "Of course I do, that is for advanced players, a stage they must overcome." Xuan rose, an eyebrow. Elder Yuan nodded. "Yes, for those pursuing Tao, they can control love. I've always lamented how many in demon scheming sect had become obsessed while very few pursued Tao. Sect's rule is indeed there to protect our way of cultivation. But ever since you came, I discovered that with our constant talks, everyone must have their own path. The 4 scheming demons curbed their thirst for blood, Gui who subdued his savagery. Elder after elder revealed their Tao heart. We are all products of our environment. I believe that with you as the sect leader, the demon scheming sect will become a true sect of the demonic path and not one filled with demons without substance. As our sect develops, desire is a step all cultivators must overcome. We can't have an ancient rule halt our sect's future, no? Ha ha ha. Elder Yuan is truly wise and broad-minded." Xuan's face twitched as he looked at him with cupped hands. Elder Yuan waved him off. "Ha ha ha, I'm doing it all for the sect's growth. People without a path will find it harder and harder to grow the more they cultivate. This is, in the end, a daring bet. It's far too soon to tell just how many people will be able to overcome this trial. If a great deal of disciples die from their deep desires, I will be condemned in our history. But if it's the other way around, by overcoming this threshold, the demon scheming sect will be changed as a whole." Xuan nodded in admiration at his boldness. Moreover, Elder Yuan turned to Xuan with a snicker. "With demon scheming sect's grand wedding, you can finally belong to this place, ha ha ha." Startled, Xuan stood agape at Elder Yuan. He would not soon forget where he and Qingqing would be holding the wedding, that was for sure. "With this, Elder Yuan is tying me to this place." Xuan took a deep breath and shouted, "Everyone, from now on, demon scheming sect no longer forbids fraternization. My first order as your new sect leader is to abolish this rule." SSS. They all gasped in shock at Xuan's declaration. After a bit of smooth talking, an ancient rule for thousands of years was broken just like that. Any past sect leader that had done this received immediate refusal from all the elders and venerables. This was against their traditional values. How can you just break ancestors' rules? This time was one peculiar exception, though. The one to announce it was the High Venerable himself. Also, Venerable Bai's faction had Xuan's back. They had to agree even if they didn't want to. Why else would he want him as sect leader then? So, 2/3 of the elders gave a silent approval, leaving only Venerable Shi's faction to stammer. Lost for words, their position was the most awkward. Xuan's side had risen up while Venerable Shi's side followed the trend. They were still part of the old regime. Now that Xiaoyu stepped down and Xuan went up, it was the moment where every empire's court went through a thorough cleaning. The fact he usually was against Xuan was nothing, since he was a venerable and had 100 people behind him. In times of peace, massacres would only lead one astray from public support, endangering his seat. Now, though, in a time of insurrection, killing was at anyone's discretion. Who told you to go against us? As Xuan declared this at such a critical moment, he could not refuse it, or it would be used as an excuse to kill him. Since time immemorial, the greatest death toll was when a regime change happened. Some died in the chaos of war, while others because they opened their mouths in such a time. He could of course zip his lip. Venerable Shi, this kid is outrageous. He wants to break our ancestors' rule. Aren't you going to say anything? One elder was incensed and whispered to Venerable Shi. Venerable Shi glared at him and cursed in a low voice. Shut it. Are you trying to get me killed? Xiaoyu and Xuan finally came to terms, and now he lacks the reason to clean his house. You want me to get his attention? It's better to stand down. The elder jerked back. Venerable Shi squinted, then he gave an eerie smile. Xuan, bravo, be cocky all you want. Your just deserts would come after offending so many people, hee hee. Long live sect leader Xua! In this eerie silence, a sudden shout echoed that drew their attention. They looked back to see Qilin as he shouted. His son followed his example, then spreading throughout Xuan's side. The shouts got louder and longer. With no opposition, Xuan shook his head. It seems to me, only Qilin really means it. The rest are only copying him. Guess misery does love company, ha ha ha. Dad, I heard some old coot is messing with you. Where's he at? A childish voice sounded, followed by Gu Santong's appearance. Luo clan was rushing over as well with hard looks. But then they found that there was no war going on here. As the crowd cheered instead, Elder Yuan did not mind their arrival and turned to Xuan. Are they the army you set up outside? Ha ha ha, you're really cautious, feeling more than half of the sect's elders weren't enough and you called for backup. I bet you won't even need anyone else, not when your freakish son alone can crush an entire sect, just like he did with Mystical Heaven Sect. Elder Yuan, you knew? Xuan raised an eyebrow. Elder Yuan chuckled. Of course I knew. You think as a high venerable I'd be at ease knowing you'd take so many experts away? I saw it myself, every move you made. That's why I never wanted to resort to violence. Because your son is too weird. I don't think I can take him, ha ha ha. Xuan's brows shook and he laughed. He then called Luo Yuhai and young Sanzi to him to ease their battle spirit as he explained. Finding out Xuan got High Venerable's support in becoming the sect leader, Luo Yuhai cheered that Xuan got through this mess without bloodshed. The sad part was that Xuan would remain in the demon scheming sect and couldn't return to the Luo clan. Not soon at least, but knowing Xuan was free to marry Chu Qingqing, everyone offered their blessings. Thus, on the second morning, under the eyes of demon scheming sect's elders, Xiaoyu stepped down and handed over the seat to Xuan. While in the evening, it was Xuan's wedding on this day. The dark and cold demon scheming sect was brimming with lively music and cheers. None aware that this happiness would be followed by shifting winds, bringing crisis to Xuan's doorstep. Chapter 768, Chosen. Chapter 768, Chosen. Proofreader Papatonks. Bam! At the festivities, all the guests were happily chatting like they were the ones getting married. Only one was drinking away his sorrows in a brooding mood. Xiaoyu, after stepping down, he got one really boring office as Venerable. Of the fearful elders he usually saw now, there was none sparing him a glance. Everyone was minding their business and enjoying the party. They all knew that there was no such thing as stepping down from sect leader in the demon scheming sect. A new sect leader would only be appointed when the old one was on his last breath, or when he got killed and a new one was elected. A nice way to put it was that Xiaoyu stepped down, while a more crude way would be to say he was driven off his chair. Who the hell would pay attention to a morose dog? They all avoided him out of fear when status faded. So did the people. The lofty sect leader Xia was now the dislike of the public, and no one wanted him. His age was over. Curse you, Xuan! I vow to get you for this. Just you wait! He yanked a pot of wine and started downing it in hatred. Just then, a familiar figure appeared. Seeing him so miserable, he shook his head. Isn't it just a sect leader? What's so great about it? Being venerable is great as well. You've got so much freedom. Fatty Yam? Xiaoyu squinted and put the pot down. He looked at Xinggang and mocked. Why are you here? Aren't you with Xuan? Go have your fun with all those disdaining me. Or have you come to ridicule me? Xinggang sighed. We've been brothers for centuries. The bond we made at the Double Dragon Gathering is unbreakable. How can I help others harm you? But to be totally honest, your time is gone. Instead of trying to get the people on your side, you threaten them. Why else could Xuan take advantage and force you to stand down? Yesterday as well, I gave you the chance to settle this, but you wouldn't hear it. Xuan as well wanted to solve this problem, but you were still so stubborn. Who was it that didn't want a peaceful resolution in the end? It was Venerable by his side. Why? Because they feared you'd settle the score. You should think about this. Humph, my business has nothing to do with you. Xiaoyu snorted and took another gulp of wine. Actually, after he finally calmed down and thought about it, he knew Xinggang had offered him many chances to get away, but he was too angry to listen. Xinggang was a true brother. Instead of looking after himself and staying with the labor office's elders, he tried to help him. It was easy to imagine that Xinggang would be isolated now. But even so, he still chose to help when he was vulnerable. Xiaoyu was grateful for his help, but he just wouldn't admit it. The worst are Xuan and those from the labor office. I brought him to the sect. I helped him get those elders into the labor office to stand up to Venerable Shi's faction. Now that they got power, they came at me. Damn ingrates. Humph, just like a true demonic cultivator, without an ounce of loyalty. Xiaoyu raved as he gulped down some more wine. Talking to Xinggang while also venting, Xinggang shook his head and patted his shoulder. Brother, let it go. You're lucky High Venerable came to save you. Look around you, at the people at this wedding. The Luo clan aren't people to be messed with. Then there's that little monster. If you start fighting, no one can save you. Xinggang sighed and left helplessly. At another table, there were smiles all around. But when they saw him coming, they turned cold, as if blaming him for taking Xiaoyu's side yesterday. Xinggang was no longer seen as one of them. Xiaoyu's eyes shone with hatred. His hand clenched and crushed the wine pot. Sect leader, must you break the pot? Xiaoyu gnashed his teeth and clenched his fists. Venerable Shi, if you run your mouth one more time, then you'll be sorry. What, are you going to attack? Humph. Venerable Shi sneered. You didn't when you stepped down. And now, after you idled away, want to show off? Is that all you amount to? Venerable Shi. Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu shot to his feet, but before he struck, Venerable Shi grabbed his arm as he warned. Right now, more than half the sect is on Xuan's side. You need me if you want to stand up again. Or is that too hard for you to realize? Xiaoyu shook and squinted at him, hope glimmering in his eyes. What did you say? Do you have a way to get my seat back? Of course. It doesn't do any of us good with Xuan at the helm. Venerable Shi nodded. You're right, half of the sect is on his side. He must be seeing my side as a thorn in his side, waiting to be removed. Our best option is to join forces. Xiaoyu calmed his heart and sat down. What's the point? I already lost, while your power will sooner or later end up swallowed up by Xuan. You think he's that easy to handle? Ha ha ha, I know that, or how else would an outsider defeat both of us in just 5 years since coming here? Venerable Shi mocked and sent to Xiaoyu. Sect leader, do you know why High Venerable did not care for you, his disciple, and settled on Xuan? Xiaoyu's face grew hard, feeling pain for his master abandoning him over an outsider. Am I so bad that he would want to ruin me? Whoosh! Venerable sure showed a jade slip. Ha ha ha, take this and you'll have your answer. Xiaoyu was focusing on it for a few moments, then cried, This. Yes, these are the ones chosen to enter Double Dragon Manor. Venerable Shi's eyes shone. Juefan, Chu Qingqing, Shui Rehua, Danner and other girls are there. High Venerable is playing a grand scheme. As you know, joining the Double Dragon Manor under the Exalted will advance hundreds of years in just a few years and would greatly promote the sect. If High Venerable won in suppressing Juefan's uprising, it was the same as losing Juefan and Chu Qingqing, the future experts of the sect. They're sure to have great power in the future, no less than High Venerable. So how could he let them slip away? While taking them in was different, greatly bolstering the sect. Xuan won't go alone to Double Dragon Manor, but following him will be the disciples he snatched from Mystical Heaven Sect that were admitted as well. High Venerable must be tearing up from the joy. Humph, he loses his prized disciple's future and earns 6 experts for the sect. This deal is clearly enticing. If I were High Venerable, I'd do the same. Venerable sure had a vague smile. But there's one problem, helping the uprising rise to power, affecting his name. Every expert pays great attention to this. I, for example, could not do it, but High Venerable is selfless, thinking only about the sect. He is a true man compared to us laymen. Xiaoyu tightened his grip on the jade slip. In other words, High Venerable cared more about Xuan and them than me. It's not because they were stronger? Of course, when did an expert like High Venerable lose in terms of power? They say that when Mystical Heaven Sect's 4 dragons killed one of our elders, High Venerable knew he was weaker and took Impermanence 5 to attack. Though they retreated, they still got to kill 5 elders of Mystical Heaven Sect under the 4 dragons' eyes and make them pay the price so that Mystical Heaven Sect won't slight us. Venerable sure sighed. That's how High Venerable is. The stronger the enemy, the more unbending he is. He only cares about the future of the sect. Xiaoyu's eyes shook as he spoke after a pause. Where did you get the list, Venerable Sure? A month ago, Double Dragon Manor sent the list to every sect. Sect leader did not receive it since High Venerable stepped in to take it. It seems High Venerable understands sect leader, and your jealousy. That's why he never showed it, ha ha ha. Xiaoyu spoke coldly. Double Dragon Manor gives the list to every sect leader, so how do you know of this? You have outside help. Will sect leader arrest me? Venerable sure snickered. Xiaoyu smiled, his eyes shining. No, now I know how you'll help me. Fine, I agree, ha ha ha. Chapter 769, Bridal Room. Chapter 769, Bridal Room. Proofreader Papatonks. Wedding night, a time of bliss after a loud evening. Xuan, in a glamorous red robe and high footwear, entered the lavishly decorated bridal room. Before closing the door, he saw on the edge of the bridal bed a marvelous figure, waiting for him to take off her red veil. Grinning, Xuan was filled with joy as he slowly came forward and lifted the veil to see a beauty incredible to this world. Of delicate features and even more mesmerizing than before, even Xuan was struck speechless, forgetting to take off the veil completely. What are you staring at? Chu Qingqing cast a faint gaze on his lost expression. She blushed and rolled her eyes at him, waking up with a start. Xuan beamed, taking off the veil and holding her hands as he got drunk on her beauty. Ha ha ha, I'm only appreciating my wife's unique features. Oh, there's no one in this whole wide world that can compare. I must have saved the world in some past life to deserve you. Zip it, what kind of demon saves the world? Destroying its peace is more like it. Chu Qingqing teased, despite the happiness she felt scratching his head. Xuan nodded. True, how can I save the world? I'd bet that since I ruined the world at some point, heaven gave me you to tie me down and not sin again. Ha ha ha, even heaven is scared of me, honey trapping me. What honey trap? When did I entice you? Why, you didn't want to seduce me? Xuan raised an eyebrow with a mischievous smile. Chu Qingqing glared, but turned her head away. Despite it all, her mouth formed a smile. Xuan snickered. Hee hee hee, since you won't tempt me, then I'll have to play rough. Xuan sprung on her, pinning Chu Qingqing to the bed. With a flick, he had the candles snuffed out, plunging the bridal room into darkness. Ah, how could you? Chu Qingqing cried out. Xuan grinned. Why can't I? You can't beat me anyway. You brute. That's me, a brute. I thought you knew that from day one. Xuan showed an evil grin. But now you're this brute's wife, getting pushed around every day. It's too late for regrets now, ha ha ha. Suddenly Chu Qingqing whimpered from the flood of emotions. Xuan said nothing as well, only letting the odd bang and crash resound in the room outside the bridal room. Qilin saw the lights were out and showed a pleased smile. He, Steward Xuan is a beast even when it comes to his wedding night, my role model. A rotten one more like it. Han Qianing glared at him, then smiled. Qilin scratched his head and looked at her. Darling, it's been so many years. Should we? Dad! Xinggang came over and broke their mood. The party is over, the elders and venerables have left. Ugh, that was damn tiring. Then go to bed. Your mom and I are going right now. Qilin rushed to say, but Xinggang stuck out his chest and said, How can I? We've just been reunited and I must do my duty as a good son. No matter what, I want to spend the night with Mom for all the years I missed. What a good child. Han Qianing rubbed his head. Qilin glared and gnashed his teeth. Get lost. You'll have plenty of time to make up for it. Tonight is mine. Dad is also doing his duty? Xinggang's face twitched. Qilin was stumped. This kid is a demonic cultivator after all. What is it taking so long for him to grow up? Didn't he hear that absence makes the heart grow fonder? Moreover, I haven't seen your mom in 2 decades. Damn brat, I told you to go. Don't talk back or I'll. Fine, do your duty. I won't disturb you. Xinggang jerked back and then he bowed to Han Qianing. Mother, I'll greet you tomorrow. Xinggang then left, puzzled and cursing inside. How can a husband do his duty to his wife? Won't a man get tired? Doing my duty to my mother, and then my wife, am I fated for a life of misery? Xinggang shuddered and sighed. Han Qianing could not help but giggle at his clueless look, and then glared at Qilin. Why are you so mean to a child? He, it's not my fault the kid is oblivious. Tonight you come with me alone. Qilin smiled and wiggled his eyebrows. Han Qianing blushed, and she left as she held his hand. While this side was filled with happy couples, there was one corner that looked desolate. Shui Rohua, Yun Xuan, Yongning and many other girls watched the lights go out in the bridal room with sadness in their hearts. Xuan, do you think Xuan will want us now that he has Sister Qingqing? Yongning asked, pondering for a bit. Xuan shook her head. I don't know what he's thinking. But what does it matter? And hasn't Sister Qingqing said it? As long as he's fine, everything is meaningless. Yeah, Sister Qingqing is so committed, she finally got to enter this cruel man's heart. Maybe we should do the same. Yongning mused. Luo Yuhai shook his head. Princess Yongning, with your trickster heart, you'll never win Brother Xuan over. What trickster? Luo Yuhai, don't spout nonsense. My heart is pure. Yes, Princess is of pure heart, but just like my sister, you still have a desire to possess him. Luo Yuhai sighed as he gave a long look at the room. But Sister Qingqing has no such desire with Brother Xuan. I believe this was the reason he accepted her in the end. Shuddering, the girls looked at each other before looking down. Compared to Chu Qingqing, they were each selfish to some degree, wanting Xuan for themselves. Xuan was a demonic expert, so he was cunning and sensitive to others' desires. He could read them like a book, and it was because of this he did not accept any of them, even though he knew their feelings for him were true. How will my sister take it? Luo Yuhai sighed and held his head. In the morning, a ray of sunlight peeked through the window and into the lavish bridal room. Xuan opened his sleepy eyes. He moved his left hand only to find his side empty. Startled, Xuan looked over to see the fairy no longer there. Looking ahead, he finally caught Chu Qingqing dressing. Her fair body looked incredibly beautiful through Xuan's hazy eyes. Seeing Xuan awake, Chu Qingqing smiled. The ever-cautious steward Xuan slept like a log. Aren't you afraid of an ambush? That's what a night with you does to me. Xuan chuckled and lay back on the bed. He stared at the plain ceiling and smiled. A woman is a hero's downfall. That's an apt description. Qingqing, taking you in my arms to sleep, I was brought back to the broken house in Drifting Flowers City, of the tranquility I felt, and I didn't feel like going back to the tumultuous and chaotic world again. Qingqing shook and smiled. At that time, we were only playing, while now, I am really your wife. That must be why my heart is at peace. Getting up, Xuan came behind Qingqing and hugged her. Qingqing, did you know? Ever since those couple of days in Drifting Flowers City, I've always been yearning for it and feared it. Because I found that with you, my ambition to strive forward is being worn down. That's why I rejected you. But in the end, you still grabbed hold of me, and there's nothing that I want to do more than stay with you forever. Xuan rested his head in Qingqing's beautiful hair, whispering sweet nothings. Qingqing felt ticklish, but her heart was bouncing in joy. I don't want to hold you back. All I want is to let you achieve your wish. There's no point now. All I want is for us to grow old together. Nothing else matters. He stuffed his head in her hair and, for the first time, let go of his pride. Qingqing, Elder Yuan was right. It's hard to overcome love. It seems I am trapped and it's all your fault. You must take responsibility for me.